Chapter 5207. Xiaohua rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "Of course I didn't know before, but when I saw this blood-red skull and the red lotus hellfire, I suddenly remembered that I once obtained a pitch-black spiritual item in my early years. It recorded the seven-eyed beautiful passion flame and the myriad strands technique. Isn't it similar to your red lotus hellfire and the ghost cultivator's doppelganger technique?" "I see." Inkue understood. After thinking for a moment, he nodded and said, "In that case, tell me what spiritual item you have first, then I'll explain it to you." "It's a Buddhist item in my hand." Xiaohua raised his hand, and the blood-red skull quickly dodged in fright. "A Buddhist item?" Inkue was even more confused and asked curiously, "You're a Taoist cultivator, how can you activate such a powerful Buddhist item?" "This seems to be the second question." Xiaohua said indifferently, "Why don't you tell me about your doppelganger technique first?" "All right." Inkue didn't know if he really wanted to know the origin of Permitha or if he wanted to take the opportunity to repair the ghost cultivator's doppelganger, so he answered in a low voice, "I'll explain it to you. When I was on duty in the Heavenly Court, I was ordered to go to the taboo star field to kill the ghosts. However, when I killed the 4 ghosts, I accidentally obtained a broken lonely leaf. The myriad strands technique was recorded on it, just like what you know. At that time, I didn't care, but 1,000 years later, when I followed the great general of the West to quell the war in the Western Star Field, I saw many immortals who were about to die. These immortals couldn't be saved and could only wait for death, so I thought of the strange item needed for the doppelganger technique." By the time Inkue gave a simple explanation, Xiaohua had already understood that what Inkue needed was the energy essence. Just as he had expected, what Inkue was doing was not a real blood sacrifice, but just taking away the energy essence of the human race with the method of ghost cultivators. Xiaohua looked at the millions of human cultivators who were still protected by hundreds of scattered nascent soul cultivators in the distance and said with a bitter smile, "In that case, the strange item you need should only be found in the upper realm. The millions of humans on the Dawn Rain continent. Even if they're all sacrificed by you, I'm afraid it won't bring you much benefits." "I didn't plan to sacrifice the humans on the Dawn Rain continent," Inkue said indifferently. "If I wanted to, I would have killed all the Taoist cultivators on the Dawn Rain continent when I landed. It's just that I've started to awaken recently, so my avatars released their primordial spirits. Those avatars saw that the Fortune Gate's disciples were causing trouble with the Heavenly Patrol City's sword cultivators, so they came up with the idea on the spur of the moment and wanted to contribute to me." "That's great." Xiaohua rubbed his nose and said, "Since they aren't enough to fill the gaps between your Excellency's teeth, could your Excellency please let them go?" If it was before, I would have definitely let him go. There was a hint of mockery in Inkue's voice as he continued, "If I were to release them now, I wouldn't even be a match for your Fortune Gate's hundreds of Ninth Tribulation scattered soul cultivators. So, tell me, can I let go?" Xiaohua narrowed his eyes as he stared at Inkue and said threateningly, "If I don't save those humans, can I ask all my fellow Taoists to work together and kill you first, then save those humans?" "Of course you can." Inkue acted as if Xiaohua wasn't talking about him and immediately replied, "However, you have to consider this carefully. As long as the hundreds of scattered soul cultivators formation disappears, I can guarantee that these millions of humans will be instantly killed by me. Also, I want to tell you that a person should keep his word. Please tell me the origin of this thing before you act." Inkue's words were naturally what Xiaohua was worried about. The hundreds of Ninth Tribulation scattered soul cultivators were just enough to protect the millions of cultivators, so it wouldn't be enough to spare one more to help. Xiaohua pretended to ponder for a moment before saying, "In fact, this thing isn't a Buddhist artifact, but a saint artifact." "Saint artifact?" Inkue was even more confused. "What saint artifact? Where is it from?" As soon as Inkue's voice fell, above the sky, behind the dozens of literati stars, layers of holy aura gushed out like a tide, followed by bursts of prayers and praises. In the midst of these sounds, cracks appeared in the vast space, and within them, countless olive branches, grapes, and other objects were revealed. What was special was that as the holy light shone down from the sky, boulders, streams of water, sharp swords, and cross-shaped stars were born. When the cross-shaped stars filled a corner of the sky and blocked the hundreds of literati stars, Zhang Jia flapped his transparent wings and flew out of one of the cross-shaped stars. At this time, Zhang Jia was singing praises, and as his wings flapped, a pleasant hymn sounded. Xiaohua had heard this hymn before, which was full of sorrow, sadness, disappointment, and helplessness. Moreover, the rhythm was getting lower and lower, and even the whole world was filled with despair. An angel of the Holy Light realm? Inkue couldn't imagine that there were two winged angels on the Dawn Rain continent. He couldn't help but exclaim, How is this possible? Then, Inkue looked at the willow branch in Xiaohua's hand and understood. He shouted, The saint artifact you mentioned, is it the saint artifact of the Holy Light realm? Of course. Xiaohua proudly held the willow branch and sneered, If it's not the Holy Light realm's saint artifact, which realm's saint artifact can it be? Fellow Taoist. Zhang Jia flew down, frowning. He looked at the black aura around Inkue with disgust, and then looked at Xiaohua. It was rare for him to call Xiaohua, fellow Taoist, and he said, Why did you call me here? Is this demonized book Immortal the key to breaking the array? Of course, Inkue was confused, but Xiaohua didn't explain. He pointed at Inkue and said, Zhang Jia, this man is a demonized book immortal from the heavenly court. He wants to sacrifice the Dawn Rain continent, where millions of humans live. What does this have to do with me? Zhang Jia said unhappily, Although I promised you, I will only help when you break the array. What does this book immortal have to do with me? Don't you want to comprehend the mystery of the Permitha realm? Xiaohua waved the willow branch and said, As long as you help me, I promise to let you comprehend the Permitha realm for 3 days. Really? When Zhang Jia heard this, his wings trembled, and countless praises sounded like war drums. Obviously, Zhang Jia was very excited. Damn it! Inkue was furious. Before Zhang Jia could make a decision, he waved his 4 arms, thrusting his sword, chopping his axe, and activating his golden seal. The bloody skull also spat out the red lotus karmic fire. Humph, damn evil creature. Zhang Jia was furious when he saw the ghost cultivator's red lotus karmic fire. How dare you use ghost arts in front of me? As he spoke, Zhang Jia waved his crystal-like arm, passing through the light and landed in front of Xiaohua. Xiaohua understood Zhang Jia's intention. Without any hesitation, he waved his hand and handed the Permitha realm to Zhang Jia. Ha! Zhang Jia had just taken the Permitha realm when her 2 7-layered wings spread open again. Layers of holy flames leaped out of the void like the sun, and a huge impatience flower appeared in front of Xiaohua. The petals of the impatience flower bloomed, and it was very dazzling. Zhang Jia's face was full of sincerity, and he was chanting in the holy language. As Zhang Jia waved the Permitha realm, the impatience flower bloomed completely, and the 10-colored brilliance covered Zhang Jia's body. At the same time, an overwhelming holy energy rushed out of the Permitha realm, and it rushed toward Inkue 10,000 times more ferocious than the heaven and earth overturning. Looking around, as the 10-colored brilliance shone, the noble chi within 10,000 miles disappeared, and everything was filled with holy light. A kind of transparency, a kind of mercy, a kind of forgiveness, and an incomparable love came from the holy light. Ha, Xiaohua, you've been tricked. Facing the holy power of Permitha, Inkue was visibly moved, but he was also pleasantly surprised. As he laughed, he opened his mouth, and a stream of true energy with the outline of a petal fiercely fell into the void. Boom! 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 Dozens of pillars of punishment once again rose from the left and right of Xiaohua and Inkue, firmly enveloping them. The holy light of Permitha landed quietly on the pillars of punishment, and was unexpectedly dyed crimson by the light of the pillars of punishment. This. Xiaohua looked down at his feet in disbelief. The blood-soaked pillars of punishment slowly flew out and covered the space around him. He stuttered as he looked at Inkue. He really didn't expect Inkue's target to be him. Inkue glanced at Zhang Jia and the mysterious Permitha realm, and a disdainful smile appeared on his face. He turned to Xiao Hua and said with a smile, "You didn't expect this, did you? You are my prey. I first set up a punishment array for you to break, then I set up a vast space. Finally, I dawdled with you for so long because I wanted you to fall into the real punishment array. Only this array can exchange your demigod bloodline for me." "You? How did you know?" Xiao Hua couldn't believe his ears. This was one of his biggest secrets. Except for Elder Wu of Huda village, no one knew about it. Hee. Inkue raised his hand and pointed at the forehead of the bloody skeleton. The bloody skeleton opened its mouth, and an extremely dim bloody figure flew out from the skeleton's mouth. Wasn't it Xiao Hua's appearance? Damn it. I understand now. Xiao Hua cursed in a low voice. You got the drop of blood that I lost in the sword catacomb. Ha, that's right. Inkue laughed and clapped his hands. If it wasn't for your blood, how could I have woken up today? In my eyes, no human cultivator in the entire Xiaoyu continent is as precious as your drop of blood. I have planned for 1,000 years, and today, I can finally get what I want. If I devour your blood, I won't be able to cultivate to the supreme pure heaven immortal realm. While he was speaking, half of the scroll hanging above Ing Su's head fell down, and the execution platform appeared with a rumble. 81 pillars of punishment firmly bound Xiao Hua's aura. Although the laws of heaven and earth were madly pouring down, the evil aura of heaven and earth above the execution platform suppressed everything and blocked the laws. Furthermore, each of the pillars of punishment once again produced 81 extremely thick chains of punishment, which covered the sky and covered the earth as they fell down, wanting to seal Xiao Hua. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, and give it a tip. Thank you to Benben and Kai Gue Han for their tips. Chapter 5208. Seeing the desperate situation, Xiao Hua's eyes were filled with determination. He looked at Inkue and said, "Don't think that you are the only one who is scheming. Don't you know that I am also waiting for an opportunity? What a coincidence. I fell into your trap, and now you are also in my jar." As he spoke, Xiao Hua's arms emitted bright silver immortal qi, and he made several hand seals, which fell into the void. Clang, clang, clang. In the void around Inkue, the ear-piercing sound of swords rang out, and sharp sword intent rushed out, sealing the space around Inkue. When Inkue heard Xiao Hua's words and saw Xiao Hua use the hand seals, he was shocked. He had already activated the eye-clearing technique, but he could not see anything except the sword light. As for the sword light, Inkue was relieved. He laughed wildly and said, "Ignorant child, don't you know that I, a Confucian cultivator, am also proficient in sword cultivation? What can you do to me with a flying sword?" Just as Inkue said this, the void under his feet shattered, and a light shadow of more than 10 feet flew out from it. The light shadow flickered slightly, and a soaring sword intent was produced. Moreover, when Inkue's gaze fell on the light shadow, an illusion appeared in front of him and pulled his gaze into it. Inkue was shocked. He cut off his gaze with his mind and withdrew it. It was at this moment that the light shadow covered 100 miles around him. "What kind of sword is this?" Inkue asked in surprise. This sword intent was naturally the immortal trapping sword diagram that Xiao Hua had placed in the void long ago. However, Xiao Hua's current strength was far from enough to activate the sword diagram. Even if he activated it now, the sword light that had just appeared was not enough to catch Inkue's eyes. However, the immortal trapping sword diagram was still the immortal trapping sword diagram, and Inkue's surprise was definitely not limited to this. Boom, boom, boom. As Inkue cut off his gaze, within the 100 miles of light shadow, a shabby sword diagram broke through the air, like a ferocious underwater beast roaring loudly. With the appearance of the sword diagram, a soaring murderous aura poured out, and layers of sword intent, like stormy waves, crazily rotated in the diagram, condensing into a fierce sword formation that wanted to escape from the sword diagram. As soon as the soaring murderous aura touched the punishment formation, it immediately tore the punishment chains into pieces. Even Inkue's huge body could not help but transform into a sword under the murderous aura. Clang! An earth-shaking sword cry rang out. Inkue's body shone with a golden light, and streaks of sword light rushed into the sky along with the murderous aura. As for the sword in his hand, it first let out a mournful cry, and its halo became extremely dim. After a while, it let out a long cry, and actually broke free from Inkue's control and rushed into the sword diagram. This. Inkue was dumbfounded. He looked at the sword diagram that had turned into a misty sword light. Within the sword light, a ferocious sword was faintly discernible. Although it had not yet revealed its sword form, the sword light was incomparably cold. The ferocious sword that had forced Xiaohua to the point that he could not fight back just now had already disappeared into the sword diagram. Inkue could not help but cry out, could this be the for great sword diagrams? How could Xiaohua answer him? Immortal spiritual energy was rapidly produced in Xiaohua's hands. In the void above his head, the power of thunder tribulation was generated, and the laws of heaven and earth fell, trying to imprison Xiaohua. However, in the punishment formation, in the immortal trapping sword diagram, the laws of heaven and earth and the thunder tribulation could not fall. However, this space was not the same space, and Xiaohua was not the Xiaohua of the Jade Archive. Under the activation of the immortal art, he could only activate the immortal trapping sword diagram, but it was still beyond his power to kill Inkue. Ha ha ha. Inkue was scared out of his wits at first, but when he saw that the sword diagram had condensed into a sword form and could not break free, and the entire sword diagram was like a bound ferocious beast, he could not help but raise his head and laugh. I see. Although you have obtained the supreme treasure of the immortal realm, you are still a cultivator of the mortal realm. Even if you have a reincarnated body, you can't activate it. In that case, don't let me take advantage of you. Xiaohua. Outside the punishment formation, Zhang Jie had also noticed the crisis Xiaohua was in. She hurriedly urged, quickly tear this formation apart. I can only activate the Nirvana Paramitha once, but if the formation is obstructing me, I'm afraid I can't. Xiaohua naturally saw it. Zhang Jie was protected by the 10 colors of the Paramitha and had long turned into a phoenix immortal flower. However, the holy light was so redemptive and compassionate that it wouldn't forcefully tear apart the punishment formation. Furthermore, within the phoenix immortal flower, Zhang Jie's spirit body was tainted by the light of the Paramitha and actually showed signs of being unable to withstand it. Humph. Reverend Yun snorted coldly, holding the Pangu axe in his dragon claw. Namo Maitreya. Namo Maitreya chanted the name of the Buddha, then raised his hand and produced the Tree of 7 Wonders. At this point in time, none of Inkue's clones dared to delay any longer. Hee hee. Inkue sneered and raised his hand. Swoosh. A huge golden hand that looked like it was made of gold grabbed out of thin air, trying to cover the sword diagram. Clang. Before the huge hand could land, a towering sword intent flew out from the sword chi and completely cut off Inkue's huge golden hand. Inkue could not help but burst into laughter again when he saw the power of the sword diagram. He did not try to control the sword diagram, but waved both hands and unleashed countless tiny beams onto the blood-red punishment platform. Although they were much weaker than the sword diagram, they carried a strong blood-red ferocious gleam and spread toward the left of the sword diagram. A cold smile emerged on Xiaohua's face when he saw Inkue exercising the divine ability of Book Immortal, trying to seize the immortal trapping sword diagram by force. It was as if he could see the scene when he fought with Leng Qingge when his cultivation base was still weak. He raised his voice and said, as an emperor, if his heart is for the people, even if he is high up in the imperial court, he will still have the hearts of the people. As an emperor, if his heart is not for the people, even if he is the son of heaven, the hearts of the people will still punish him. Xiaohua had already said this before, and the meaning behind it was even more profound than what Xiao Hua had said to Lang Qingge in the past. Xiao is the beginning, I am here to seize your freedom for 10,000 generations. Engraved in stone, recorded in the annals of history, how I rebuked you. See how this Xiao will suppress you. His anger was much less, and the level was much higher. However, in the end, Xiao Hua's voice rose again as he said angrily, if the hearts of the people are powerless, I will do it. If the hearts of the people desire, I will do it. If the hearts of the people are destroyed, I will replace them. After saying this, Xiao Hua waved his hand and took out the Shenyuan sword from the space. He threw it into the immortal trapping sword diagram without hesitation. Boom! On the sword diagram, the half-formed ferocious sword immediately let out a rumbling sound as the Shenyuan sword was thrown in. The bronze sword light swept up endless profound mysteries and soared into the sky. The profound mysteries swept across the blood-red punishment platform like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, sweeping them clean. Ah! Inkue was shocked and astonished. He gritted his teeth and said, This is clearly the Shenyuan sword of my Confucian school. You are a Taoist cultivator, where did you get the Shenyuan sword? Unfortunately, how could Xiao Hua answer him? Moreover, although the Shenyuan sword was not the immortal trapping sword, it was also a famous ferocious sword in every world. What was special was that in the vast space of the book Immortal, the profound mysteries of the sword Qi soared into the sky. It was like a giant hand of heaven and earth had grabbed the space of tens of thousands of li, pulling all the majestic aura and law chains into the sword Qi. Woo-woo. One by one, the stars fell into the sword Qi like falling stars. One by one, the mountains fell into the sword Qi like collapsing rivers. When the entire space shattered, the bronze Shenyuan sword appeared like a sword of heaven and earth. One side of the sword was divided into 5 sections, respectively engraved with the sun, moon, and stars. The other side was divided into 9 sections, respectively engraved with mountains, rivers, and plants. On the hilt of the sword, one side was engraved with the techniques of farming and animal husbandry, and the other side was engraved with the strategy of unifying the 4 seas. As the shadow flashed, the sun, moon, and stars lingered, the mountains, rivers, and plants danced. The unparalleled sharpness of the sword streaked across the space, setting off a roar like a wave. The roar of the wind tore everything apart. The 81 punishment pillars were slanted, and the blood-mottled punishment platform was overturned. Not to mention the hundreds of punishment chains that trapped Xiao Hua, they had already shattered like a spider web. Inkue's expression was blocked by the golden light and black gas, so Xiao Hua couldn't see it. However, looking at Inkue's trembling body and the broken crown, Xiao Hua could already feel Inkue's sorrow. Inkue seemed to want to raise his hand to control the Shenyuan sword. Not to mention that he was an emperor and didn't dare to control it, he definitely didn't dare to block the power of the immortal trapping sword diagram. At this moment, Zhang Jia, who couldn't support the Nirvana sword anymore, suddenly chanted, Saint Lord, lend me your power to wipe out the evil spirits in this world. As he spoke, Zhang Jie's wings emitted a bright holy light. The Nirvana sword waved, and a ray of holy light passed through the stormy space storm and landed on Inkue. The Nirvana sword in Zhang Jie's hand was different from when it was in Xiao Hua's hand. The holy light lacked redemption and had more anger. Even the immortal trapping sword diagram couldn't stop it. The holy light seemed to be gentle as it crashed into Inkue's body. It didn't have the shocking power of the Shenyuan sword, but under the holy light, there was a soft swoosh. Like the law of heaven and earth, raindrops fell like tears. Under the raindrops, not only did the black gas that was destroyed by the golden light turn into nothingness, but even the golden light was annihilated. A mighty man wearing an emperor's robe and a crown was revealed in the annihilated golden light. The man's face was filled with incomparable shock. However, as soon as the holy light passed, the man's eyes turned red. He waved his 4 arms at the same time and said angrily, Whoever dares to mess with my order, I will kill him. After that, the golden light scattered again. The sword, flute, bow, golden seal, and even the bloody skull were all summoned. They madly pounced on Zhang Jie, not caring that the Xianyuan's sword was already close to him. As for Zhang Jie, after waving the Nirvana sword, the holy light around him was quickly annihilated. His spiritual body was also a little turbid, as if he couldn't withstand it. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Maitreya Buddha world-honored one chanted the name of Buddha. The tree of 7 wonders fell down. Under the light of all kinds of treasures, the treasured swords, disciples, bows and arrows, and the golden seal all lost their colors. As the tree of 7 wonders brushed past, all the treasures fell, not to mention the blood-colored skull. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it a tip, and thank you to Benben, Kai Guanhuan and other fellow Taoists for your tips. I will add more chapters for you today. Chapter 5209. Not only that, as the tree of 7 wonders waved, countless worlds were destroyed, and the Buddha's light went beyond space and fell on Inkuei's body. Bang! The sword light around Inkuei's body was annihilated as if it had hit a broken piece of cotton. The blood-red color in his eyes disappeared. However, what surprised Xiao Hua was that even though the tree of 7 wonders had struck him, Inkuei's body was still unharmed. At this time, Inkuei's eyes were slightly closed, and his body was falling rapidly. Watch me. Just when Xiao Hua was hesitating whether to let Reverend Yun attack, an arrogant voice came from afar. Then, he saw the celestial being flying over barefoot. Before he could get close, he opened his mouth. Buzz! A loud roar broke through the air, and the heavenly dipper rolled out of his body. Whoosh! An aura several times fiercer than the spirit-slaying light rushed out of the heavenly dipper, instantly drowning the surrounding space. Then, as the celestial being raised his hand and pointed, a black light of death came out of it. This black light passed through the broken space and covered Inkuei. At this time, the golden light around Inkuei began to regenerate, but the black light of death had already extinguished it. Fellow Taoist. Reverend Yun squinted at Xiao Hua and said, "There is something wrong with the emperor's outfit. Even the Maitreya Buddha's tree of 7 wonders could not break it. My Pangu axe may not succeed." Speaking of this, Reverend Yun seemed to be unwilling to give up and explained, "Of course, it's not that I's Pangu axe is not sharp enough. It's just that in the mortal world, its power is limited. I'm afraid that it and the Emperor's outfit are both under the same law of heaven and earth." In fact, there was no need for Reverend Yun to explain. The black light of death, which even the 2 great saints of the original realm were afraid of, had only extinguished the Emperor's outfit and the golden light of Inkuei's immortal body. How could Xiao Hua not know that he could not destroy the immortal body of the Book Immortal on the Dawn Rain continent? In fact, even Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu could not be killed by the divine powers of the 3 continents if their immortal bodies were not damaged, let alone the Book Immortal. Wasn't Fairy Xingyu the same? Although he had changed many bodies, the immortal mark was still there. As long as he had immortal qi, he could still recover his immortal spirit body. Sure enough, Zhang Jie carefully held the higan and said loudly, "Xiao Hua, the immortal body of the Heavenly Court's Book Immortal has already surpassed the law of heaven and earth in the Dawn Rain continent, so it should be indestructible in the Dawn Rain continent. Although the higan has many wonderful methods, it can't surpass the law of heaven and earth here, so." I understand. Xiao Hua nodded. Since Reverend Yun had already said that, there was no need for Zhang Jie to repeat it again. Xiao Hua gave the Xianyuan sword in the immortal trapping sword diagram a look, then looked up at the sky. The punishment formation had been destroyed, and Inkuei's vast space had been pierced by the diagram, gradually collapsing. The thunder tribulation that was previously blocked by the formation was now coming out like a shadow, while the omnipresent laws of heaven and earth were coming at him. While the thunder tribulation was brewing, Xiao Hua actually felt a pair of frightening eyes staring straight at him. "Everyone," Xiao Hua ordered in his mind, "the immortal body of the Heavenly Court's Book Immortal is very powerful, and there is no other way to break it apart with the means of Confucian cultivators. The Xianyuan sword is the only weapon we have today, and only I can activate this supreme treasure of Confucian cultivators. So, I have no choice but to step forward. Now, the Xianyuan sword has borrowed the power of the immortal trapping sword diagram, and if I want to activate it, I will have to use the immortal energy. Perhaps, as soon as I destroy the immortal body of the book Immortal, the great tribulation of heaven and earth will descend. Therefore, I'll leave the task of breaking the formation and saving the billions of lives on the 3 continents to you. Big brother, cried Sure the Archfiend, since we can't kill the book Immortal, why should we? The lives on the Dawn Rain continent can't be compared to the 3 continents. Even if all of them are destroyed, it will only be 10% of the 3 continents. You should know which is more important. Besides, with Big Brother's vast space, we can also save the disciples of Fortune Gate, Thunder-controlling sect, and other old friends of Big Brother. Xiao Hua smiled faintly, then raised his hand and patted the top of his head. Boom! 3 streams of Xiantian true qi gushed out, and in an instant, the surrounding righteous qi crashed down on Xiao Hua. Although Ing Kuei was washed away by the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper's black light, the blood-red color in his eyes slowly reappeared. He saw that Xiao Hua had actually used the 5 Qis unifications technique, and his eyes looked towards the Xianyuan sword. He immediately understood Xiao Hua's intention, and he hurriedly urged his body to escape from the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper. Unfortunately, how arrogant was the black light. Even if it couldn't cut off his 3 flowers, and couldn't destroy his 5 Qis unifications technique, it could still wash away his immortal body until he couldn't move. Little brother Mo Ling. Xiao Hua's body surged with sword light, and his whole body gradually turned into a sword. The sound of a sword chime rang out. Human lives are not worthless. Ordinary people are lives, and so are kings. Similarly, human lives are not important, they are all lives. Whether it's the Dawn Rain continent or the 3 continents, since I have seen it, I can't avoid it, and I can't have selfish thoughts. Although I have gone, the 3 continents still have you to save. After he finished speaking, the sound of a sword chime shook the heavens and the earth, and a sword light that penetrated the heavens and the earth rushed into the immortal trapping sword diagram. Roar! Just as the sword light entered, a huge dragon-like roar was heard from the sword diagram. Xiao Hua was like a sword god, and his figure appeared under the Xianyuan sword. When Xiao Hua raised his hand and grasped the Xianyuan sword, the space within tens of thousands of li began to be annihilated at an accelerated rate. However, when Xiao Hua's eyes were like the sun and moon, and his arms were like mountains, and he slowly waved the Xianyuan sword, countless light shadows were born from the Xianyuan sword, and fell into the annihilated space. Boom, boom, boom. The noble qi within tens of thousands of li crazily gushed out and rushed into the light shadows. Many suns, moons, stars, mountains, rivers, plants, farmers, and generals were born. As the Xianyuan sword fell, the suns, moons, stars, mountains, rivers, plants, and so on all crashed into it like a flood. The place where the Xianyuan sword fell was naturally Ing Kuei's emperor's outfit. Although the emperor's outfit was suppressed by the black light of annihilation, and the golden light was no longer there, and only some mountains and rivers could be seen faintly flashing, but the imperial qi on it was strong and unparalleled in the world. The Xianyuan sword was heavy and had no edge, and with the power of the sword diagram, it stabbed into the emperor's outfit. Boom, boom. The imperial qi was immediately shattered, and then the images of the suns, moons, and stars also poured in. However, in just a moment, Ing Kuei's eyes were filled with surprise. Bang! Like the mountains and rivers were broken, and the land fell down, the emperor's outfit turned into pieces and fell with the wind like butterflies dancing in the wind. At the same time, ka, ka, ka. Above the firmament, a burst of thick lightning appeared. This lightning was the tribulation of heaven and earth, and even the book Immortal of the heavenly court couldn't resist it. Xiao Hua looked at the Xianyuan sword in his hand, and the fierce light on it didn't diminish. Waves of fierce qi that wanted to kill the book immortal of the heavenly court unceasingly attacked Inkuei, but when this fierce qi fell into the book immortal's tenacious golden light, it dimmed and disappeared. Fellow Taoist. At this time, the celestial being shouted, "Quick, I can't hold on any longer." Okay. Xiaohua agreed and turned his head to look into the distance. At this time, more than 100 scattered nascent souls had already protected millions of cultivators and escaped from the vast space. Fairy Hongxia was naturally among them. Xiaohua didn't know if his reluctant gaze swept over Fairy Hongxia. He gritted his teeth and activated his immortal qi, preparing for the final attack. But when the immortal qi was produced and the thunder tribulation fell, Xiaohua suddenly saw the 5-colored true qi with black threads on top of Inkuei's head. Damn it! Xiaohua's mind lit up, thinking of the new princess actions when he was possessed by the devil. He cursed in a low voice and slapped his head again. Swish, swish, swish. 5 streams of true qi rushed out from the 4 half-sky hearts. It was very strange. When the 4 half-sky hearts appeared, the half-petal on top of Inkuei's head suddenly produced 5 petals. These 5 petals were also in the shape of the heavenly heart. Even the petals produced a strange suction force and sucked in the 4 half-sky hearts. Swish. A pure noble qi rushed out from the petals with a power that could wash away all impurities. It first spun in the scroll, then poured into the top of Book Immortal's head. Wisps of black smoke were forced out by the noble qi. However, the black smoke was like a maggot. Although it had transformed into tiny, bizarre fiends and fell in the air, they still rushed madly towards Inkuei's immortal body, as if they would not stop until one of them was dead. Ha! Sure, the fiend flew out while yelling, "Don't be afraid, fellow Taoist. This is my dish." The billowing fiend energy of Sure the fiend drowned these fiends in an instant. At this point, the celestial could no longer hold on. He retracted the heavenly dipper and nodded at Reverend Yun. Then, both man and dragon disappeared quietly. Seeing that the dark beam of silence was gone, a dazzling golden light shone out from the top of Inkuei's head once again, slowly covering his head and neck. Xiaohua felt relieved when he saw that the golden light was not evil, and the immortal energy in his palm slowly dissipated. This. Just as Xiaohua was about to heave a sigh of relief, a dignified and surprised voice came out from the golden light. "What is going on?" Then, a pair of arms suddenly reached out from the golden light, seeming to be trying to kill Sure the fiend and Xiaohua. Not good. Xiaohua's heart tightened again, and he hurriedly urged his immortal qi again. "Ah. The Xianyuan sword?" The voice came again from the golden light. Who are you? How dare you take the Xianyuan sword of a Confucian cultivator?" Seeing that Inkuei's arms had stopped, Xiaohua dared not let his guard down. He shouted, "Senior, I am Xiaohua. The heavenly dipper in your body now belongs to me. Please think carefully." Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Just as Xiaohua's voice faded away, Inkuei's angry voice was heard. After cursing 3 times in a row, he shouted again, What have I done?" P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a tip, and... Chapter 52:10. As he spoke, Inkuei raised his head again, as if he was about to do something. But, just as he raised his arm, he dropped it again and said in a low voice, "So be it. If it weren't for these clones, how could I have come this far?" Xiaohua understood that Reverend Yun, celestial being, and Feng Wu had joined hands to kill Inkuei's clones. Looking at Inkuei's increasingly powerful golden light, and sensing the mighty imperial power fighting against the sword energy of Xianyuan's sword, Xiaohua felt somewhat helpless. He no longer had the strength to activate the immortal trapping sword diagram. After pondering for a brief moment, Xiaohua retreated at top speed, exercising the mystic technique of Qingqiu Mountain to forcibly suppress the immortal energy. However, even though he had used Su Ji's magical technique and the mystic technique of Qingqiu Mountain, the tribulation cloud above Xiao Hua's head still did not completely dissipate, and a suffocating pressure loomed over him. With the immortal energy gone, the fierceness of the immortal trapping sword diagram dropped rapidly. After half the time it took to finish a pot of tea, it still turned into a broken diagram and fell under Xiao Hua's feet. Holding the Xianyuan sword in his hand, Xiao Hua was on guard as he carefully put the diagram into his space. On the other side of Inkue, Zhang Jia was also staring at Inkue, fearing that Inkue would suddenly attack him. Similarly, Buddha Maitreya, world sovereign, Xiao Hua, and Zhang Jia stood in a tripartite confrontation, trapping Inkue in the middle. Unfortunately, Inkue just stood there, letting Tianxin cleanse his immortal body, letting the dazzling golden light once again envelop the area of 1,000 miles, and letting Lord Demon Lord transform into a fiend cloud and swim around him, trying to devour him. It was as if he did not notice any of this, as if he was reminiscing. In the time it took to finish a meal, Reverend Yun, Feng Wu, Huang Tong, Daoist sorcerer, Reverend Yun, and celestial being had returned to different parts of the space. At this moment, Xiao Hua breathed out a long sigh of relief. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead with his hand, quietly looking at the golden light in front of him, and the pure white light of Tianxin falling under Inkue's feet. Ha ha ha. Lord Demon Lord burst into laughter, plunging straight into the ground and vanishing in a moment. When Demon Lord Shi flew out, Inkue had just gotten out, and he didn't notice it in a hurry. Now that he was awake, how could Demon Lord Shi dare to enter the space in front of him? The Demon Lord had left, and his incarnations had returned. However, the Heavenly Court's book immortal Inkue did not move or speak. At this moment, the vast space of tens of thousands of miles had disappeared, but the remaining aura was still there. Strong winds howled in the sky. The red clouds swayed, and the blood-red sun hung in the sky. One day had passed. On the ground, the snowfield was gone, the mountain peaks were gone, the sword tomb and the sky-patrolling city were gone. Thick cracks spread out in all directions like wounds on the ground. It was a ghastly sight. Sigh. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the golden light. The voice was dignified, but it was also filled with regret. Xiao Hua opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but when the words reached his mouth, he didn't know what to say. Inkue was not Su Ji, so Xiao Hua did not dare to approach him. What's the use of regretting now? Zhang Jie's cold voice rang out, you humans, whether human or immortal, have this problem. You have no faith in your heart. For the so-called purpose, you do things that challenge your bottom line. When there is no bottom line, you will naturally become a demon. The so-called demon is sometimes the power of the demon world, and sometimes it is the desire in your heart. Yes. Inkue's voice rang out, even if I regret now, what can I do? Atonement. This time, Xiao Hua didn't hesitate and continued, only by redeeming your crimes and sins can you have no regrets. Such a sin, when can I atone? Inkue said faintly, as if he was talking to himself. Xiao Hua answered indifferently, if you don't take a few steps, you won't reach 1,000 miles. If you don't atone, when can you atone? That's right. Inkue thought for a while and nodded. Then, with a boom sound, golden light shone from his body. Xiao Hua and Zhang Jia were shocked, but they saw Inkue's huge golden body kneel down in midair. His voice sounded like a temple collapsing, I am ashamed to face heaven and earth, and I am willing to atone for my sins from today onwards. I am willing to atone for my life with the merit of a lifetime. If I don't atone for my sins, I won't ascend to heaven. Crack. 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 The 9-colored thunderbolt fell into Inkue's golden light like a rainbow. When the lightning disappeared, Inkue turned his hand and touched the half-petal above his head. Crack. The petal cracked, and the book broke, turning into profound meaning and falling into the calyx below. The light of the calyx gradually faded, and the heart of heaven returned to 4.5 pieces. Seeing this, how could Xiao Hua not know what Inkue was doing? His heart was bleeding, and he couldn't help but roar in his heart, big brother. I asked you to atone for your sins because I want you to help me save the world and break the immortal formation with the power of a book immortal. Why are you hurting yourself? What you're doing is destroying the hope I just had. Oh my God, aren't you toying with me? The heart of heaven fell from Inkue's head like a falling flower. With every inch it fell, the golden light around Inkue's body converged into the heart of heaven. When the heart of heaven fell under Inkue's feet, a tall king stood in front of Xiaohua and the others. Xiaohua. Inkue seemed to have remembered everything. He raised his hand and pointed at the heart of heaven. The heart of heaven flew to Xiaohua and said, "This is your heart of heaven. I return it to you intact. If it weren't for you today, I would have been consigned to eternal damnation. I won't say thank you. Everything in the heart of heaven is my gratitude." Hiss. Xiaohua was speechless, but what could he say? When he took the heaven's heart, he saw that the incomplete heaven's heart had been mended a lot, becoming denser and denser. The other 4 heaven's hearts had also become denser, far more profound than his previous heaven's heart. It was as if the other 4 heaven's hearts had been added to it. Xiaohua couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. How could he not know that Inkue's origin was not ordinary? If he hadn't hurt himself to atone for his sins, he would have had a higher chance of breaking the immortal formation. However, it was too late to say anything now. Xiaohua patted his head, and the 5 Qis rushed out, taking the heart of heaven. He looked at Inkue and wanted to say something, but at this moment, Inkue rapidly aged and turned into a withered old man. Oh, and this. Inkue thought of something and hurriedly raised his hand. The human-shaped shadow that looked very similar to Xiaohua flew out of his hand and entered Xiaohua's body. Then, Inkue said embarrassedly, "I took your blood essence, but instead of returning it, I wanted to take your life. I'm really sorry." Xiaohua was not used to Inkue's behavior. He hurriedly replied, "Senior, you're too polite." Seeing that Inkue didn't mention the heart of heaven, Xiaohua looked at Zhang Jia and didn't say anything. Good. Zhang Jia clapped his hands and said, "You reined in the horse at the edge of the cliff and turned over a new leaf. You're indeed a hero. I'm really surprised to be praised by the angel of the Holy Light Realm." Inkue glanced at Zhang Jia, and his gaze fell on the Pramitha in her hand. "However, I don't want you to follow in my footsteps. With your ability, even in the Daybreak continent, you also have the strength to fight with us. However, you relied too much on this sacred artifact, so you could only take one move from me. What's more, when you forcefully activated it, you've already suffered a backlash." Zhang Jia also sighed. She returned the Pramitha to Xiaohua and said, "Book Immortal is right. What belongs to the Sacred Master should be returned to the Sacred Master, and what belongs to the Nanwa Great Compassionate Pessimist should be returned to the Nanwa Great Compassionate Pessimist. I'm just a little angel, so you don't have to worry about me." Nanwa Great Compassionate Pessimist? Inkue didn't understand, but he didn't ask. Xiaohua kept the Pramitha. Zhang Jia flapped his wings and said, "I'm leaving. I just activated the Pramitha, and my spiritual body is already on the verge of collapse. Don't call me for 100 days. After 100 days, when you break the formation, I can still come again. Since you can recover in 100 days, why don't you come directly to me? You used the sacred artifact to activate it, and I'm also using the same amount of sacred energy. Don't make me go through any more trouble." Xiaohua said with a bitter smile. Zhang Jia nodded. "Then I'll do as you say." Xiaohua smiled and cupped his hands. "I'll see you off. I hope you can recover soon." Zhang Jia wasn't one to be courteous. He nodded and flapped his wings, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. Break the formation? Inkue looked at Xiaohua, then at the Thunderbolt Immortal and the others. He asked curiously, "Break what formation?" The Thunderbolt Immortal rolled his eyes at Inkue and answered, "Of course it's the immortal formation of the 4 great continents, the 4 great continents." Inkue was even more confused. Forget it. Xiaohua looked at Inkue's abnormally withered arms and other parts. He really wanted to shout at him, "Why didn't you ask earlier?" But now, he could only sigh and say, "Let's not talk about this first. Senior, how long can you stay in the Dawn Rain continent without your immortal body? It could be a few days, or it could be a few years." Inkue's face was filled with melancholy. If he hadn't forcibly cultivated the clone technique and actually turned into a demon with the body of a book immortal, he would definitely still be free and unfettered in the heavenly court. Actually. Xiaohua thought for a moment, then comforted him, "Senior, you can think about it from another perspective. Although turning into a demon is a calamity, it might also be an opportunity." Since Inkue was a book immortal of the heavenly court, he knew what Xiaohua was talking about. He nodded and said no more. After taking off his immortal body, Inkue's overall strength had been greatly reduced, and he was no longer Xiaohua's match. Xiaohua looked at the vigilant clones and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoists, you've all worked hard. Why don't you take a rest first?" "No need." Reverend Yun looked up at the sky and said worriedly, "We don't have much time left. Let's find a way to break the formation first." "Just wait." Thunderbolt Immortal stepped out from the crowd and said to Xiaohua, "Fellow Taoist, please send me back to Kunlun Immortal Realm. I still need to refine my magical item." "All right." Xiaohua knew the refining of the 5 elements heavenly staff had come to the most critical moment. Without further ado, he took out the Kunlun mirror and sent Thunderbolt Immortal into his space. P.S. For all the fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, and give it a tip. Thank you to the leaders of Kai Guihan and Chuan Tong for their tips. Chapter 52:11. When Xiaohua activated the Kunlun mirror, boom boom boom. Faint lightning strikes faintly appeared in the sky. Inkue watched as the lightning immortal was taken in by the Kunlun mirror's light pillar, then said, "Xiaohua, your Dao's sect immortal world's secret technique is no longer able to suppress the ascension force. If possible, put on my broken emperor armor first. It can temporarily block the lightning tribulation for you." "All right." Xiaohua nodded. The celestial had already flown out and handed the broken emperor armor to Xiaohua. Xiaohua looked at the strange fluctuation on the broken emperor armor and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If Junior had known earlier, I wouldn't have broken this emperor armor. This item is also a famous immortal imperial equipment of the heavenly court. When you ascend to the immortal world, you might have heard of it. Inkue watched Xiaohua put on the emperor armor and said faintly, "Since you can break this item, your ability is far beyond what I expected. This immortal imperial equipment can also be refined. Later, pass it to Confucian Cultivator and let him refine it. I will give you the refining method later." "Thank you, Senior," Xiaohua said sincerely. Inkue was taken aback. He looked at Xiaohua, whose gratitude was genuine, and sighed, "I'm really surprised. The immortals in the immortal realm of the Tao League are known for their selfishness. After taking advantage of others, they still claim that they are virtuous. This is the first time I've seen such a grateful cultivator from the Tao League. After all, I almost killed you before. This small matter shouldn't be taken as thanks. Others are others, Xiaohua is Xiaohua." Xiaohua said with a smile, "Moreover, in Junior's eyes, although Senior's previous crimes are innumerable, with Senior's ability, you still made such a vicious oath to atone for your crimes. You are already Junior's role model. Death is easy, repentance is hard, atonement is even harder. Senior's blood sacrifice. I'm afraid there are countless people. With Senior's words, I don't know how long it will take to repay all of them. This is what I should do." Inkue's face showed guilt, then he said to Xiaohua, "Also, although my strength has been weakened by 70%, but, if you need me, please do your best to ask." "Senior," Xiaohua said sincerely, the matter of breaking the formation concerns the entire Dawn Rain continent. Junior has to explain it to the various sect masters of the Dawn Rain continent right away, so I won't speak any more with Senior here. All right. Inkue nodded and replied, since that's the case, then I'll stay in Dawn Rain continent for a few more days. Oh, right. Xiaohua suddenly thought of something. He waved his hand and took out the coffin from the space. Inkue could not help but cry out in shock when he saw the pitch-black coffin, with 8 lifelike dragons engraved on its 8 edges, and a ferocious-looking dragon head and a ferocious-looking tail respectively in front of the head and behind the tail. 9 dragons' coffin? Xiaohua nodded and said, that's right, this is something that this junior obtained by chance. That day, this junior didn't know what it was, but, with the help of that senior from the immortal world, the outer layer of restriction was opened, and this coffin was revealed. That senior was a Dao immortal from the immortal world, so he couldn't open this thing. Seeing senior today, this junior suddenly thought of something and wanted to see if senior has a way to open it. Inkue looked at the dragon scales on the 9 dragons that were filled with inexplicable carvings, then looked at the tadpole-shaped clouds that surrounded the 9 dragons, and asked curiously, why would the 9 dragons' coffin appear in Dawn Rain continent? Where did you get it? Xiaohua said with a smile, the place this junior obtained is rather secretive. Well, it's fine if you don't tell me. Inkue did not ask any more questions. He pointed at the dragon head and said, this 9 dragons' coffin is an item of the heavenly court. It's usually used to store corpses. Of course, it's also used to store secret items of the heavenly court. You can usually tell what's inside from the dragon head. If it's a corpse, the dragon head's eyes should be closed. If it's an item, the dragon head's eyes should be open. Xiaohua hurriedly looked at the dragon head. Sure enough, the dragon's eyes were open. The 2 Dao immortals who were injured by me were right. They can't open this 9 dragons' coffin. Moreover, if they use their divine abilities by force, they will be injured by the power of the 9 dragons on the 9 dragons' coffin. From the carvings on the 9 dragons' coffin, although it's not set up by an earth immortal of the prime clear lineage, it's not something they can open. Xiaohua probed, Senior, can you open it? Inkue said with a smile, if it was before I woke up, of course I could. But now, I'm no longer a book immortal. Of course, I can't open it. Alright, Xiaohua was helpless. He raised his hand and was about to put the coffin away when Inkue said, however, the 9 dragons on the coffin seem to have been set up in a hurry, and the book immortal who set it up is not strong. I have some common secret arts here. You can try them. Maybe you can open it. All right. Xiaohua nodded and said with a smile, if I can't open it, I'll give up. Otherwise, I'll keep thinking about it. Inkue looked at the heavenly beings and said, I was defeated by you, so my things are all yours. These are all things of the heavenly court. You can't treat them lightly. Don't worry. Huang Tong said with a smile, your treasured sword, golden seal, and other things have been taken by us. Since you've decided to atone for your sins, throw away everything in this world. Inkue said and took out a few things that looked like tortoise shells and handed them to Xiaohua. This is my cultivation method. There are also some strange things inside. I see that you also know about Confucian cultivation. When you meet a suitable Confucian cultivator, you can entrust them to you without worry. Speaking of this, Inkue hesitated for a moment and transmitted his voice. In one of the tortoise shells, there's a stone tablet. It's said that it's related to a secret of the heavenly court. When you pass it down, you should explain it clearly. Don't let this stone tablet be destroyed. Ah. Xiaohua was surprised and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He transmitted his voice, Senior, you don't have to do this, right? Don't you Taoists talk about fate? Inkue replied indifferently, this is the fate of another Confucian cultivator. Of course, if you think it's inappropriate, you can throw it away. Also, my execution platform is also an item of the heavenly court. If the Confucian cultivator you entrust enters the heavenly court, he can rely on it to have a meteoric rise. All right. Xiao Hua accepted it helplessly. Then, Inkue took out a dozen things similar to Mo Yuntong and handed them to Xiao Hua. This is the Red Cloud Festival commonly used by the Heavenly Court. It's different from the immortal slips of the Taoist immortal world. In the mortal world, you can use the light of clear eyes to look at it. There's the 9 dragons coffin suppressing seal and the secret technique to open it. Xiao Hua took the Red Cloud Festival and didn't look at it carefully. He only picked the one with the 9 dragons coffin suppressing seal. Just as he was about to comprehend it, he suddenly raised his head and looked in the direction of the Huan country. He frowned and said, "Fellow Taoist Huang Tong, the sword cultivators of the Huan country are here. It seems like they've also received news from the Sky Patrol City. Go take a look and let them wait nearby." Well said. Huang Tong spread her wings and flew away. Feng Wu also looked into the distance and said to Xiao Hua, "Fellow Taoist, give the Kunlun mirror to I. I will take those fellow Taoists into the Kunlun wonderland. I'm afraid they can't stay in the Dawn Rain continent for long." All right. Xiao Hua handed the Kunlun mirror to Feng Wu and said, "Let the 3 kingdoms of cultivation and the sect leaders of the various sects who came here take a rest first. After this Taoist and senioring finish dealing with the 9 dragons coffin suppression, this Taoist will tell them about the immortal array." "I'll do as you say, fellow Taoist." Feng Wu grabbed the Kunlun mirror and flew away. Taoist sorcerer smiled and said, "The commotion in the Sky Patrol City is too great. The sword cultivators, Tao cultivators, and soul cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent might all come here. Fellow Taoist, why don't you wait for a few more days, Xiao Hua nodded. A bright light shone out of his eyes as he looked at the Red Cloud Festival. While Xiao Hua was comprehending, Inkue looked at Reverend Yun and asked in a low voice, "You look like a dragon from the mortal world, but why do you have a strong aura of the dragon realm? Could it be that you're also banished to the Dawn Rain continent like me?" Reverend Yun did not have a good impression of Inkue. After all, these clones had become independent, and they were not as easily forgiven as Xiao Hua. Reverend Yun gave Inkue a sideways glance and said coldly, "This is I's secret. I don't think I need to tell you, do I?" Hee. Inkue was a little embarrassed, but he asked again, "Since it's a secret, I won't ask. But, the axe you used just now, it looked like, that's the Pangu axe." Reverend Yun interrupted before Inkue could finish. "If fellow Taoist Xiao didn't stop me, I would have hacked it down. If that happened, you wouldn't even have the chance to atone for your sins." "Not necessarily." Inkue opened his mouth and only said 2 words. Then, he stopped and looked around. Looking at the doppelgangers, he asked curiously, "You are all from the Demon Clan, the Dragon Clan, and the Buddha Lord. How come you are together? And why are you following Xiao Hua's orders? We share the same ideals. What's the matter?" The Celestial tilted his head and said coldly, "Namo Maitreya." Maitreya chanted the name of the Buddha and said, "Benefactor, we are all from the 3 continents. Because of the calamity of the world-destroying mayfly, we have come to the Dawn Rain continent to break the immortal formation." "World-destroying mayfly?" Inkue was shocked and asked curiously, "What is that?" "It is said to be a type of spirit insect from the upper realm, and it is not something cultivators from the mortal realm can resist." The Celestial answered impatiently, "It's best if you know anything about the immortal formation, but if you don't ask." While they were talking, Xiao Hua had already put away the Rosy Cloud Festival. He raised his hand and slapped on the top of his head, sending out 3 streams of innate energy. Seeing that, Inkue hastily stopped him and said, "Don't be hasty. 3 streams of innate energy are not enough to open the 9 dragons coffin. This emperor will give you 2 more. Hearing this, Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and said curiously, "Senior, although this junior doesn't understand the cultivation method of the Heavenly Court's Book Immortals, this junior just took a look. The mortal realm's Confucian immortals cultivate the 5 Qis unifications, while the Heavenly Court's book immortals cultivate the three flowers at one's prominence. Wouldn't this junior's three streams of innate energy be used to cultivate the three flowers at one's prominence? Senior, why did you give this junior 2 more streams of innate energy? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, and give it a tip. Thank you, Alliance Master Chuan Tong, for your tip. Thank you, Alliance Master Emptychin. Chapter 52:12. Hearing Xiao Hua's question, Ying Kuei smiled and said, "Don't the Tao immortals of the immortal world emphasize that Tao begets 1, 1 begets 2, 2 begets 3, 3 begets all things? If you don't have all things, how can you cultivate to 3? Without 3, how can you cultivate to 2? I've never heard of anyone who can cultivate 3 flowers at one's prominence with only 3 streams of innate true qi. You're not a heavenly court immortal, so you might not be able to cultivate 3 flowers at one's prominence. When you have time, you can take a closer look and you'll know what I mean." Xiao Hua also smiled. He understood Ying Kuei's words. After thinking for a while, he said respectfully, "In that case, Junior thanks Senior." Ying Kuei didn't hesitate. He raised his hand and pointed at his chest. 2 streams of innate true qi flew out like snakes. At this time, Ying Kuei was like a kind old man. He was not the fierce man from before. Xiao Hua's heart was filled with mixed feelings. He thought to himself, if this is the case, then human desire is the real heavenly devil. The so-called devil race in the devil world can't be compared with the devil in the human heart. This book immortal is much stronger than Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu, but after he turned into a devil, it's even harder to control him. As the saying goes, virtue is 1 foot tall, the devil is 10 feet tall. Seeing the 2 streams of innate true qi flying over, Ying Kuei's appearance became even older. Xiao Hua hurriedly pointed at his chest. Buzz. 3 streams of innate true qi flew out and met Ying Kuei's 2 streams of innate true qi. Swoosh. Before the 5 streams of innate true qi touched each other, many lights and shadows appeared in the void between them. Countless mountains and rivers surged out, and an indescribable majesty spread out in all directions. Xiao Hua's 3 streams of innate true qi seemed weak, but they were brave. Ying Kuei's 2 streams of innate true qi looked very strong. They emitted a strong aura of imperial power and a will of supremacy in the world. Xiao Hua's innate true qi couldn't compare. When the 5 streams of innate true qi collided, there was a slight vibration at first, but in a moment, Xiao Hua's middle dantian emitted the power of the heavenly heart. The 5 streams of innate true qi no longer entangled and flew into Zhao's dantian. Boom! When Ying Kuei's 2 streams of innate true qi, the lively qi in Xiao Hua's chest was immediately ignited and surged crazily. Xiao Hua didn't dare to neglect. He activated Heavenly Court. But these 2 streams of innate true qi from the Heavenly Court, and qi, and qi, qi, and qi. Qi, cheeses, and qi, qi. Qi, 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 and qi, qi. Qi and qi. Qi, qi, qi. And qi. Qi, 5, of. Qi, qi, cheat. Qi, cheese, true qi, 2 streams. Qi, cheat. Qi, good. Ying Kuei's eyes were filled with surprise. He couldn't help but praise Qi Qi. He had already understood that Xiao Hua's Confucian cultivation base was definitely not what he had guessed. However, Ying Kuei was also somewhat convinced. If it were him, he definitely wouldn't have let 2 streams of innate true qi into his dantian so easily. Xiao Hua's tolerance was beyond his reach. Seeing the 5 streams of innate qi rushing out, Xiao Hua chanted the incantation. The 5 streams of innate qi intertwined with each other in midair, transforming into 10 inscriptions that were several zhang in size. The strokes of these inscriptions were very strange. Rather than words, it would be better to call them 10 knots. Puff, puff, puff. Xiaohua spat out innate true qi into the 9 knots. The 9 knots swayed and turned into 10 dragon images of different sizes. Only the last knot was still suspended in mid-air, emitting a golden light. Go! Xiaohua cried out softly. Together with the knots, the 9 dragon images pounced into the 9 dragons' mouths. Roar! The dragon fell into the 9 dragons' mouths at the same time, and the 9 dragons roared. Layers of dragon patterns mixed with vast inscriptions flowed from the 9 dragons' heads to their tails, and the entire black coffin turned into a dragon coffin. However, even after the dragon marks had dyed the 9 dragons, the 9 dragon images formed by Xiaohua's innate true qi did not completely fall into the 9 dragons' mouths. Similarly, the dragon coffin did not transform into a dragon image, and the 9 dragons did not hide. Xiaohua frowned. He gave Reverend Yun a look and cried out, "Fellow Taoist, please give I a hand." "Huh, that's easy." Reverend Yun laughed and said, "I've told you before, the fortune of Confucian cultivators is eyes. Qi." After saying that, Reverend Yun raised his head and sent 9 streams of innate true qi into Xiaohua's innate true qi. Boom! The 9 dragon images seemed to come alive as they rushed into the 9 dragons' bodies. They emitted a deep rumbling sound, causing the entire dragon coffin to tremble. It was during this trembling that the 8 dragon images around the dragon coffin slowly transformed into dragon patterns and fell into the dragon coffin. The dragon coffin then transformed into a giant golden dragon. Senior. Xiaohua was not in a hurry to form the last knot. Instead, he asked calmly, "Why is the fortune of Confucian cultivators so similar to the dragon energies? And why is the coffin of Heavenly Court's Book Immortals also shaped like a dragon?" The heavenly secret cannot be revealed. Inkue shook his head and said, "This is the secret of Book Immortals of Heavenly Court. You are just a Tao immortal from the immortal realm, so don't poke your nose into it." "All right." Xiaohua nodded helplessly. He raised his hand and pointed it at the last knot. Looking at the knot landing on the dragon's forehead, Xiaohua felt a little uneasy. Everything before was just a foundation, and only this last knot was the real foundation to open the dragon coffin. Sure enough, as the knot landed, more black and white light threads flickered, and countless phantoms appeared. Then, a collapsed void appeared at the dragon's horns. Asterisk swoosh, asterisk. As the knot landed, an inscription of armor appeared in the void. While spinning, the inscription spread across the dragon's body. When the inscription had completely covered the dragon's body, a loud noise rang out, as if a door had been opened, and the dragon turned into a huge coffin character. "Huh, Xiaohua, you're really lucky." Inkue laughed and said, "With your cultivation base, you can actually open this 9 dragons coffin. Apart from the fact that the strength of the Book Immortal who sealed the coffin was too weak, it can only be explained by your luck." Xiaohua rubbed his nose. As he raised his hand and placed it on the word coffin, he said with a smile, "Junior's luck has always been very good." However, before Xiaohua could finish his words, the wood character had already disappeared, revealing a space overflowing with dragon energy. When Xiaohua saw the thing inside the space, he couldn't help but cry out in surprise, "Ah! This, how is this possible?" Inkue didn't step forward. He knew clearly that there must be something very important sealed in this dragon coffin. This was something that Xiaohua must obtain, and he had no reason to cause any trouble. However, when he heard Xiaohua's cry, he couldn't help but look at him and ask, "What's wrong? Is it something very strange? You can tell me what it looks like." "Senior, come and take a look." Xiaohua sighed and said, "It's not just strange, it's extremely strange." Seeing that Xiaohua didn't care, Inkue flew over. When he saw the thing inside the space, he couldn't help but cry out in surprise, "Ah! This, how is this possible?" "That's right, how is this possible?" Xiaohua's hand had already been removed from his nose. At this moment, He rubbed his nose with a bitter smile and said with a distressed expression, although Junior hasn't seen his true appearance, but Junior and his daughter are Tao companions, Junior can recognize him at a glance. He was clearly sitting on the dragon throne, full of vigor and energy, pointing out the world. How could he be lying in this dragon coffin? Moreover, this dragon coffin, Junior obtained it from a very secret place. He couldn't have gone there. Immortal Emperor? The Celestial looked at him in boredom and asked curiously, this old fellow looks like this? Why is he lying in this coffin? Following the gaze of the Celestial, there was a human several zhang tall, dressed in plain white clothes lying there. This human had a square face and thick eyebrows. Although his eyes were tightly closed, a strong aura of majesty was emitted from his body, forcing Xiaohua to stay away. Xiaohua had never seen this person's appearance before, but looking at his 70% resemblance to Princess Zixia, how could Xiaohua not know that he was Immortal Emperor Gochen? However, at this time, Xiaohua didn't have time to answer the Celestial. Instead, he looked at Yingkue strangely. He was surprised because Immortal Emperor Gochen was sitting in the immortal palace of the three continents, commanding the Confucian cultivators to resist the strange insects. How could he be lying in this coffin? Moreover, this coffin was obtained by Xiaohua from the heavenly prison. How could Immortal Emperor Gochen fall into the heavenly prison? He knew Immortal Emperor Gochen, but did Yingkue know him? Why was he so surprised? All of a sudden, Xiaohua's heart was filled with a sudden realization. Sure enough, Yingkue looked at Xiaohua and asked curiously, This is Heavenly Emperor Tian Huang of the Heavenly Court. Could it be, you know him? Heavenly Emperor Tian Huang? Xiaohua smacked his lips and shook his head slightly. This junior has never heard of this name, but this junior knows a Confucian Immortal Emperor from the three continents. His name is Immortal Emperor Gochen. Although this junior has never seen this Immortal Emperor's true appearance, this junior and his ninth princess are lovers, so this junior can recognize him at a glance. I see. Yingkue nodded slightly. Who knew what he understood? Did he know that Xiaohua knew Immortal Emperor Gochen? Or did he know that Xiaohua knew Confucian cultivation methods and had the heart of heaven because he and the ninth princess were lovers? What about Senior? Xiaohua looked at the majestic human and asked in a low voice. Yingkue glanced at Xiaohua and didn't dare to say much. He only explained, this emperor. Yingkue's body trembled slightly when he said the word, this emperor. He quickly changed his title and said, this old man has some status in the heavenly court and has seen the five sides. Oh, I mean Heavenly Emperor Tian Huang. Therefore, when I saw this emperor's appearance, I couldn't help but be surprised. Of course, if what you said is true and that Immortal Emperor Gochen looks exactly like this one, then it means that Immortal Emperor Gochen is an avatar of Heavenly Emperor Tian Huang who reincarnated in the mortal world. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, gift it, and Chapter 52:13. At this point, Yingkue looked at the coffin with a fearful expression and didn't dare to say anything else. Xiaohua stared at the coffin in silence for a long time. The reason was simple. Even without Yingkue's explanation, Xiaohua already knew that there was another avatar of Emperor Tian Huang inside the coffin. This was a trap he had set up in another world. However, due to some reason, this avatar had fallen into the heavenly prison, and Xiaohua had managed to bring it out by chance. The problem was that there was already an avatar of Emperor Tian Huang in the four continents. If there was another avatar, what was he going to do? Emperor Tian Huang is immortal in the heavenly court. What annoyed Xiaohua the most was that Yingkue said, it said that the old man's doppelganger is also immortal. So, although the nine dragons' coffin is filled with corpses, the doppelganger is still alive. That's why the eyes of the nine dragons are still open. Xiaohua's brows furrowed deeply upon hearing that the avatar was still alive. Yingkue continued, of course, that's only a legend. No one knows if it's true or not. It's also possible that avatars can be killed, but Emperor Tian Huang will know of the death of every avatar. That's why Emperor Tian Huang's enemies imprisoned this avatar and placed it inside the 9-dragon coffin in order to avoid detection from Emperor Tian Huang. However, no matter what, the 9-dragon coffin is already in your hands. Do you dare to throw it away? Xiao Hua shrugged, and his brows relaxed. Of course not, but I don't have the ability to awaken it. That's fine, right? I can. Inkue replied with a smile. Xiao Hua's body swayed, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Senior, there's no need for you to tell me that, right? I'll pretend I didn't hear anything. You can pretend you didn't hear anything. Inkue's smile was as wide as Aogia's. But His Majesty's avatar heard everything. He can't be awakened right now, but once he's awakened, he'll know everything that happened today. Woo! Xiao Hua plummeted several dozen feet like a meteor before flying back up with a sullen expression. Senior, what do you mean by that? Are you really going to awaken Emperor Tian Huang's clone? Don't forget that the 3 continents already have a clone. Who knows what will happen when the 2 clones meet? Oh. Aren't there no Confucian cultivators in this Dawn Rain continent and only sword cultivators? Inkue was puzzled. This realm is called the 4 Great Continents. Xiao Hua briefly explained the immortal array. Inkue was also dumbfounded when he heard that. In the end, Inkue said embarrassedly, actually, if I awaken this avatar, he might be able to help you. Xiao Hua's eyelids twitched, and he said helplessly, Senior, can't you? However, Xiao Hua understood what Inkue was trying to say. The avatar in front of him was no ordinary avatar. It was the avatar of Emperor Tian Huang. In order to atone for his sins, Inkue had already sworn an oath that he would have to stay in the mortal world for a long time to atone for his sins. If he could form a good relationship with Emperor Tian Huang, it would be beneficial to his future cultivation. Of course, Inkue's words were not without reason. Emperor Tian Huang was a powerful figure in the heavenly court. His avatars in the 4 Great Continents might not know about the immortal array, but his avatars in other realms might. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, how about I discuss this with my fellow Taoists and give you an answer in the future? Inkue nodded and said, I hope you can give me an answer in 3 years. All right. Xiao Hua agreed. He looked at the 9 dragons coffin and asked, there's no need to close it, right? Of course. Inkue hurriedly replied, just put it in your storage space. The turtle shell I gave you is the best. Xiao Hua put away the 9 dragons coffin, looked into the distance, and said to Inkue, I'm going to meet the cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent. Senior, do you want to go with me? Of course. Inkue said indifferently, you haven't told me why you want to break the array. Senior. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, because of my appearance, you didn't succeed in the blood sacrifice, but you destroyed the Sky Patrol City, the Sword Tomb, and other places. Many sword cultivators and Daoist cultivators died. If you can apologize in person, perhaps it'll be better for you to atone for your sins. Inkue frowned and thought for a moment, then shook his head and said, I'm sorry. I know you're thinking for me. Maybe I can do it in the future, but I can't do it now. If that's the case. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, Senior, you can fly at the end. If I don't mention it, the cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent won't think of it. Inkue nodded and said, then I'll have to trouble you. Senior, you're welcome. Xiao Hua smiled faintly, waved his hand, and said to Daoist Sorcerer and the others, let's go. Fellow Daoist, please. Tianren glanced at Inkue and stood in front of him, raising his hand to ask Xiao Hua to go first. Xiao Hua knew that Tianren was narrow-minded, so he smiled and flew toward the sects of the 3 kingdoms of cultivation. Xiao Hua and Inkue shook hands and made peace, but the aftermath of the battle was still there. At this time, the Sky Patrol City, the Sword Tomb, the mountains, and the snowy plains were all gone. Only the messy ground was covered with cracks. In the direction of the Sword Tomb, the sword masters of the various sword sects of the Han country had already arrived with their disciples. They were different from the Kunlun sect master Xian Jing and the splendid sect master Yang Yu. They had also received the news that the Fortune Gate's disciples had besieged the Sky Patrol City, but they didn't care. Firstly, they didn't believe that the Fortune Gate's disciples would be so stupid as to risk their lives to besiege the Sky Patrol City. Secondly, they didn't think that the Heaven Patrol City's sword cultivators couldn't resist the Fortune Gate's disciples. Most importantly, they wanted to see the Mountain Patrol Sword Sect, the Flying Feather Sect, and the Quilted Mountain Sect's disciples make a fool of themselves. When they received the news that Xiao Hua had killed Luo Xingtian and led the Fortune Gate's disciples from the 3 continents to the Sky Patrol City, they were immediately shocked. They wanted to stop the battle between the Sky Patrol City and the Fortune Gate's disciples before Xiao Hua arrived. However, under the careful arrangements of the Void Heaven Sword School, the Bright Sword Sect, the High Wind Sword Sect, and the Yi family, they were still too late. Seeing the battle qi covering the Sky Patrol City, as well as the awe-inspiring qi, how could they not know that they were too late? However, even a spirit swordsman as strong as Rosie Butterfly was a little confused. She had never seen such a battle formation in her life. How could it be caused by the Sky Patrol City's disciples and the Fortune Gate's disciples? Just as they were feeling apprehensive and didn't know whether to advance or retreat, in the distant sky, countless auras that made them tremble with fear appeared. These auras were as powerful as the gods, and they were 3 times stronger than the divine sword auras recorded in their sword slips. Therefore, all the sword cultivators trembled and wanted to escape. At that time, the Xianyuan sword pierced through the sky, and the unparalleled divine sword force caused all the sword cultivators flying swords to produce sword cries. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't control the sword intent. Even after the heaven and earth shook and the Xianyuan sword's aura disappeared, the sword qi around them was still like boiling water, churning for a long time, unable to be suppressed. Half a day later, the qi of heaven and earth faded slightly. A group of swordsmen gathered around a few spiritual swords and were just about to discuss when they saw a demon flapping its wings in the distant sky. An aura that was like a tidal wave surged toward them, scaring them out of their wits. In their knowledge, when had they ever seen such a ferocious demon race? Just as everyone was trembling with fear and didn't know how to face it, and didn't know what would happen to them, that demon actually used the language of the Dawn Rain continent to instruct indifferently. This old man is a good friend of spiritual master Shao. Come with me. Rosie Butterfly and the other spirit sword sect cultivators hurriedly suppressed the surging sword qi in their hearts and struggled to fly. Just when they were about to answer, the demon race completely ignored them and turned around to fly into the distance. That demon race was naturally Huang Tong. Although there were many swordsmen in the Huan country, in his eyes, they were just a group of ants. If it weren't for Xiao Hua's order, he would absolutely be too lazy to pay attention to them. Junior obeys. Rosie Butterfly and the others didn't dare to neglect and hurriedly passed down the order. Hundreds of thousands of swordsmen, as well as nearly 1 million swordsmen who received the news, followed Huang Tong and flew in the direction of Sky Patrol City. When they flew closer, they were even more dumbfounded. This was because on the shattered ground in the distance, there were several times more Dao cultivators than the sword cultivators of the Huan country. They were neatly divided into several groups and quietly stood there. Needless to say, the tens of thousands of cultivators in front of them were famous sects from the Shi country, Meng country, and Lian country. Behind them were the slightly weaker sects from the other countries. Behind the 3 countries' cultivators were millions of low-level disciples. Although the Huan country's sword cultivators didn't recognize these disciples, they already knew that they must be the disciples of the Fortune Gate. As for behind these Fortune Gate disciples, there were hundreds of thousands of cultivators whose auras were more powerful than all the cultivators in front of them combined. When the sword cultivators' eyes and divine sense fell on these cultivators, their eyeballs almost fell out. Because most of these cultivators were golden core disciples, if these hundreds of thousands of cultivators swarmed up, no one in the Huan country would be able to deal with them. However, this was not the only thing that surprised them. Just as they stood still, another demon race that looked similar to the one who led the way flew over and landed on the heads of the golden core disciples. He said loudly, "Fellow Taoists, Fortune Gate disciples, listen to orders. Under Taoist Zhao's orders, you all are to return to the Kunlun Wonderland." "Yes, we will obey." As the demon race's voice fell, ripples appeared in the void near the Tao sect cultivators. Hundreds of thousands of nascent soul cultivators in armor separated and formed a team in midair. As the demon race waved a magic tool that looked like a bronze mirror in his hand, these teams were sucked into the bronze mirror. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it a tip, and thank you for the Book of Flight for your tip, thank you. Chapter 52:14. Even though Qi Liandia was a spiritual sword, she was so scared that she couldn't even breathe. A nascent soul cultivator was a sect leader in the 3 countries of the Dawn Rain continent, but in front of this demon, according to Taoist Master Zhao's command, he was just a squad. Could it be, this is Taoist Master Zhao's Fortune Gate disciple? All the sword cultivators held their breath and watched quietly. Their hearts were as if struck by lightning, and their curiosity was like a cat scratching at them. They secretly thought, could it be, there are other more powerful disciples? The sword cultivators were not disappointed. In the place where their divine sense longed for, more than 100 scattered nascent soul cultivators appeared proudly. Qi Liandia, Ruotian, Qing Minghua, and Chong Taishu were not calm. These 4 sword masters who controlled the Heaven One Cyan Light Sword formation had now advanced to spiritual swords. They looked at more than 100 scattered nascent soul cultivators whose cultivation they couldn't see through, but there were faint lightning bolts rushing out uncontrollably nearby. They were so surprised that their hearts were numb. They clearly knew that if one of these 100 scattered nascent soul cultivators appeared in the Sky Patrol City in the past, the Sky Patrol City must be a Tao cultivator. Fairy Luo Hua, Taoist soaring dragon, were just fleeting clouds. However, the scattered nascent soul cultivators, who were like gods in their eyes, obediently listened to Taoist Master Zhao's command and flew into the bronze mirror and disappeared. Just as these scattered nascent souls disappeared, the distant horizon once again appeared a solid figure as big as a mountain range, with an aura as vast as the sea. There was a bald man who looked like a ferocious god, a valiant dragon with a huge body, a soul warrior with mysterious starlight shining all over his body, and a monk with a compassionate face standing on a 9th-grade lotus throne. These cultivators seemed to have supreme strength in the world, but which one of them was not an all-powerful figure? However, these cultivators were all clustered around a thin Tao sect disciple as they slowly flew over. This cultivator's eyebrows were slanted, and his eyes were like stars. A faint smile hung on the corners of his mouth. Although he didn't speak, that charming smile had spread over the whole earth. Even the moonlight that had just emerged from the clouds in the distant mountains couldn't compare. Moreover, between this cultivator's eyebrows, a faint arrogance and inherent domineering aura involuntarily emerged. When the cultivator's gaze swept over, it leisurely emerged. This was the true demeanor of a king. Even the scorching sun at noon couldn't reach it. Xiao Hua. The gazes of millions of human cultivators were all focused on this person, and all of them were chanting the same name in their hearts. Big Brother Xiao. Behind the Fortune Gate disciples, where Yuanya and the Black Bear Spirit were standing proudly, Huang Mengxiang moaned like a love-struck fool. "You're finally here. I knew long ago that you would rule the world one day, but I really didn't expect this day to come so quickly." Beside Huang Mengxiang were naturally Li Zongbao and Kai Zhuxia. When Kai Zhuxia heard this, she frowned slightly and used her right elbow to nudge Fairy Hong Xia, who was standing beside her. However, Fairy Hong Xia did not pay any attention to Kai Zhuxia. Instead, she stared fixedly at Xiao Hua's familiar body. Among the millions of cultivators in the Daybreak Rain continent, there was probably no one who was more familiar with this ordinary physical body than her. However, at this moment, this body was standing before everyone and before her eyes. This light made this body seem incomparably glorious, and Fairy Hongxia felt a sense of unfamiliarity. "What's wrong with you?" Kaizhuxia asked in a low voice. Fairy Hongxia shook her head slightly, as if she had just woken up. She looked at Xiao Hua and whispered, "Nothing." "That's your husband," Kaizhuxia reminded in a low voice. "Don't let others snatch him away." "I know." Fairy Hongxia bit her lips and replied in a low voice. Yuanya stood at the side, pretending not to have heard anything. However, the black bear spirit smiled loyally and said, "Mistress, don't worry. As long as Master has you in his heart, no one can snatch you away." Hearing the black bear spirit with unfathomable strength call her mistress, Fairy Hongxia felt a sense of incredulity. She could not help but whisper, "Senior, I haven't." Before Fairy Hongxia could finish speaking, the black bear spirit fell to his knees and kowtowed. "Mistress, why are you calling me senior? If Master finds out, won't he chase me out of the fortune gate? Quickly get up, quickly get up." Fairy Hongxia's face was red as she hurriedly waved her hand and said, "I won't say any more." "Yes, yes." The black bear spirit hurriedly got up and said with a smile, "I will listen to mistress's orders." Seeing how the black bear spirit treated Fairy Hongxia, Huang Mengxiang was extremely jealous. However, whether it was the black bear spirit or Yuanya, they did not even look at her. This made her grit her teeth. At this time, Xiao Hua had already flown to the front. As he looked around, he saw that within a few hundred miles, there were millions of cultivators. Some were sword cultivators, some were Dao cultivators, and all of them were unusually respectful. No one dared to make a sound. Xiao Hua opened his mouth, wanting to say something. However, before he could say anything, the black bear spirit looked at Yuanya and bowed. Disciple respectfully requests sect master to ascend to the throne. How could the black bear spirit have such thoughts? These words must have been taught by Xiong Yi. At this time, Xiong Yi and Li Xiang also led the disciples and bowed. Sect master respectfully requests sect master to ascend to the throne. Ha! Xiao Hua chuckled and waved his sleeves. Boom! A deafening boom reverberated in the air. The throne of creation flew out in a spectacular manner. Tens of thousands of bolts of lightning surged and fell below Xiao Hua. This throne of fortune was naturally formed by Xiao Hua's divine ability. However, it was real in front of everyone's eyes. When Xiao Hua sat down, another thunderous roar could be heard. The throne of fortune soared into the sky, and millions of lights turned into illusions of various colors and fell everywhere. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts rushed into the sky and turned into clouds that enveloped Xiao Hua and the others. Seeing such a majestic scene, the Dawn Rain Continent's Fortune Gate disciples who were standing behind the Dao cultivators were ecstatic. At the same time, they knelt in mid-air and kowtowed. Disciple greets Dao Master Xiao. There were more than 2 million Fortune Gate disciples who came to the Sky Patrol City. Although nearly 30% of them died in the battle with the Sky Patrol City's sword cultivators, there were still more than 1 million disciples. When these million disciples kowtowed in unison, it was like a tsunami. Not to mention the various Taoist cultivation sects, even the sword cultivator disciples were shocked. Kunlun sect master Xian Jing did not dare to be negligent. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Junior Xian Jing greets Dao Master Xiao." Kunlun sect's disciples also bowed and said, "Junior greets Dao Master Xiao." Seeing that Xian Jing had spoken and the Kunlun sect's disciples bowed, all the other Dao cultivators sect masters and disciples came to their senses and bowed, "Junior greets Dao Master Xiao." When the Dao cultivators bowed, the various sword cultivators also hurriedly bowed and said, "Junior greets Dao Master Xiao." In an instant, millions of cultivators bowed and millions of disciples knelt. All the Dawn Rain Continent's cultivators were kneeling in front of Xiao Hua. Li Zongbao, Kai Zhuxia, Fairy Hong Xia, Huang Mingxiang, and the others naturally did not bow. However, when they stood in the sea of people, they appeared so small. Huang Mingxiang's eyes flickered with a dreamy luster, while Fairy Hong Xia's eyes revealed an indescribable expression. Facing so many cultivators bowing, Xiao Hua did not feel uneasy. He raised his hands and circulated his divine ability. Millions of cultivators felt as if a pair of invisible arms had appeared in front of them, slowly lifting them up. Tao Master Xiao. Although they were so far away from Xiao Hua, the Fortune Gate's disciples had never felt so close. The God in their hearts was so close that they felt as if he was personally lifting them up. Therefore, some of the disciples who had not stood up were already crying and shouting, "Tao Master Xiao, you're finally back." Xiao Hua looked at these devout disciples. The crystal-like Godhead behind his head emitted a faint light, and the power of faith surged into his body even more fervently than before. Xiao Hua looked at the Fortune Gate's disciples and smiled. "Yes, this Xiao is back. In the future, all of you will really be my Fortune Gate's disciples." Tao Master Xiao. All the Dawn Rain Continent's Fortune Gate's disciples wanted to shout something, wanted to say something, but all the words that reached their mouths were blocked. It was as if 1,000 words could not compare to the 3 words Tao Master Xiao. A soundless cry was born from the bottom of their hearts. Xiao Hua smiled faintly. Although his figure moved slightly, the millions of disciples felt as if they saw Xiao Hua land in front of them. The face that had been clearly engraved in their hearts suddenly appeared in front of them. All the disciples' faces flushed red, and they were unable to control themselves. "All of you have worked hard." Xiao Hua spoke again. "When this Xiao was not on the Dawn Rain Continent, all of you actually developed the Fortune Gate into such a force. This Xiao is truly grateful." Tao Master Xiao. All the disciples choked again. But Xiao Hua changed the topic. "Now that the Dawn Rain Continent's other sects and sword cultivators are here, this Xiao will talk to them about official matters first. When the official matters are over, this Xiao will talk to all of you about my Fortune Gate's private matters. How about it?" Disciples dare not delay Tao Master Xiao. All the disciples were moved to tears. Xiao Hua's words showed that he did not treat them as outsiders at all. Thinking back to how Xiong Yi and Li Xiang had led the Fortune Gate's disciples, the disciples' hearts burned with passion. After appeasing the Fortune Gate's disciples, Xiao Hua looked at Fairy Hong Xia and smiled faintly. He then swept his gaze over Li Zongbao, Kai Zhuxia, Zhang Qingxiao, Huang Mingxiang, and the others. He then looked at the Mountain Patrol Sword Sect, Flying Feather Sect, and Quilted Mountain Sect that were guarding the Heaven Patrol City, as well as the Void Heaven Sword Sect, Bright Sword Sect, and High Wind Sword Sect that were attacking the Fortune Gate's disciples. He said indifferently, "You all either fell for Yi Yaotian's trick, or you colluded with Yi Yaotian to fight my Fortune Gate's disciples in front of the Heaven Patrol City. Let's not talk about the outcome of this battle. Your hands are stained with the blood of my Fortune Gate's disciples." Before Xiao Hua could finish, the sword cultivator's face changed, and he hurriedly bowed again. "We have made a big mistake, please punish us." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, bookmark it, and Chapter 52:15. Xiao Hua said coldly, "A debt of blood should be paid with blood. But seeing that all of you have fallen into Yi Yaotian's trap, and Yi Yaotian has already been executed, this Xiao will no longer pursue the death penalty. I hope that all of you will take this as a warning to cultivate more in the future and kill less." Yes, yes. The sword cultivators were terrified and lowered their heads in agreement. As for the rest of you, Xiao Hua looked at the Seven Skills Sect, Xuanyan School, and the Cleansing Flower Sect, and said, "What do you think of my Fortune Gate's current strength?" Spiritual Master Yang Yu's eyes turned and he hurriedly answered, "Spiritual Master, your Fortune Gate is already the #1 sect on the Dawn Rain mainland. It won't be a problem for you to sweep through the 3 countries. Then what if my Fortune Gate exterminates the 7 Skills sect? Xiaohua asked indifferently, as the 7 Skills sect master, what do you think? Sweat dripped from Spiritual Master Yang Yu's forehead. He opened his mouth, but his mouth was dry. He didn't know how to answer. Behind Spiritual Master Yang Yu, Spiritual Master Yi Xian, Spiritual Master Wu Hongzi, and Spiritual Master Jing Huan were sweating profusely. They didn't dare to raise their heads lest Xiaohua ask them. Yes, although your sect is weak, it is still your foundation. You naturally don't want my Fortune Gate to exterminate your sect. Xiaohua didn't expect them to answer. He continued, judging from this, you should understand the thoughts of the lightning-controlling sects Fairy Xian Hua and the others. Of course, you can also say that you were instigated by the falling star sky. But ask yourselves, if you didn't have selfish thoughts in your heart, how could you have fallen into his trap? Yes. Spiritual Master Yang Yu originally wanted to say that he was deceived by Qi Jianghai, but seeing Xiaohua's imposing manner, he didn't dare to quibble. He could only agree submissively. With this Xiao's current strength, it would be a loss of this Xiao's face to bicker with you. Xiaohua continued, but if this Xiao doesn't bicker with you, it would be a loss of my Fortune Gate's face. Sect heads, how do you think this Xiao should handle this? Seeing Xiaohua let go of the Void Heaven Sword School and the other sword cultivators and make things difficult for the 4 sects of the state of Xi, not to mention Taoist Yang Yu and the others, even Xian Jing didn't understand. However, a moment later, Xian Jing had an idea. He quickly bowed and said, Taoist Xiao, although Junior didn't participate in the siege of the Imperial Thunder School, Junior received a message from Falling Star Sky in the Kunlun Mountains. He wanted Junior to make things difficult for the Rock Border School. However, Junior thinks that since we are all cultivators of the state of Lian, there's nothing we can do about it. Therefore, I didn't agree. Today, the Shanghua sect and the other 4 sects in the country of Xi are too selfish and caused internal strife in the country of Xi. Taoist Yang Yu and the others immediately understood what Xiaohua was trying to say. They knew that Xiaohua hated internal strife the most. Xiaohua could let go of the blood feud between the Heavenly Patrol City and the Fortune Gate, but he could not let go of the Xi country's 4 sects besieging the Imperial Thunder sect. Therefore, Reverend Yang Yu, Reverend Yi Xian, Reverend Wu Hongzi, and Reverend Jing Huan did not dare to be negligent. They hurriedly knelt in midair and said in unison, Reverend Xiao, we were wrong. We hereby swear that we won't dare to cause any more trouble in the future. He. Xiaohua smiled slightly, helped them up, and said, there's no need for an oath. I'm warning you today because I want you to understand that among the Dao cultivators, the country of Xi is one, the country of Meng is one, and the country of Lian is also one. If compared with the sword cultivators, the 3 countries of cultivation are also one. In this great war of Dao sword, you all did very well. However, if compared with the Liu Immortal Alliance that is 1,000,000 miles away from the Meng Mountains, the sword cultivators and the Dao cultivators are also one. With that, Xiaohua raised his hand and pointed in the direction of the Kuei He Si, and said, if compared with the Confucian cultivators, the Buddhist sect, and the demon clan on the other side of the sea, the cultivators of my Xiaoyu continent are also one. Xian Jing and the others were puzzled. However, Xiaohua did not explain. He pointed to the sky again and said, but if compared with the demon clan in the 10,000 demon realm, the human cultivators, whether it is the Dao cultivators, the Confucian cultivators, the Buddhist sect, or the soul cultivators, are all one. Even under the current great calamity of the world, we are also one. If we don't work together, how can we pass down our Dao teachings? How can we continue our bloodline? As soon as Xiaohua said this, within several hundred miles, whether it was the sword cultivators or the Dao cultivators, whether they understood or were ignorant, all bowed and said, yes, what Taoist Xiao said is right, we all understand. Good. Xiaohua's wisdom eyes had been opened long ago. Looking at the crowd, he did not point it out. His gaze fell on the heavenly demon 13 sect's disciples. He looked at Zhang Qingshao meaningfully and said, "This world can be divided into heaven and earth, yin and yang, and naturally can also be divided into good and evil. Who is good and who is evil, who is right and who is wrong, this Shao does not dare to say. I'm afraid only the heavenly Tao knows. Since the heavenly demon sect can exist now, there is naturally a reason for its existence. If Sect Master Zhang has great talent and vision, he can manage the heavenly demon sect in an orderly manner. This Shao will not interfere too much with the development of the heavenly demon sect, and also will not let the fortune gate force the freedom of the heavenly demon sect's disciples too much." What Zhang Qingshao wanted was for Xiao Hua to acknowledge the heavenly demon sect in front of the entire Dawn Rain Mainland's Tao cultivators. At this time, he was overjoyed to hear Xiao Hua's words. He quickly bowed and said, "This one is very happy to receive Taoist Zhao's high opinion." This one really did not know that the Earth Fiend sect, Earth Spirit sect, and Renhua sect had besieged the Fortune Gate's disciples. This one originally came to ask for forgiveness, but before this one could say anything, Taoist Shao had already forgiven them. Although this one is happy, there is also fear in my heart. The 3 sects' ordinary disciples can be pardoned, but the 3 sect masters must be killed. Of course, this matter will be dealt with by this one. There is no need for Taoist Shao to think too much. Xiao Hua nodded and said, "Sect Master Zhang is considerate." Also, Zhang Qingshao continued, "This one feels that he was not strict enough and offended the Fortune Gate. This is this one's fault. Therefore, today, in front of Taoist Shao and all the cultivators in the world, this one passes the sect master's position to Yi Yin, and asks Taoist Shao and the other sect masters to be witnesses." "Lord Sect Master." Yi Yin was shocked and hurriedly flew out, shouting, "How can you?" Zhang Qingshao smiled and said, "This one has offended Taoist Shao, so naturally, this one must ask for forgiveness. I hope that the heavenly demon sect can flourish in your hands. Of course, you must know how to sit on the sect master's position, and what you should do in the future." "Yes." Seeing that Zhang Qingshao had made up his mind, Yi Yin bowed and said, "Disciple knows what to do." Xiao Hua nodded and said, "Since this is the case, this one will not say anything about the heavenly demon sect's matter. I believe that my Fortune Gate sect masters will handle it themselves." "Thank you, Taoist Shao." Zhang Qingshao and Yi Yin bowed at the same time and retreated into the crowd. Finally, Xiao Hua looked around, looking at the other sword cultivator and Tao cultivator sects, and said loudly, "Everyone, this one is very grateful that all of you came from all over the Dawn Rain mainland to support my Fortune Gate. This one has not set foot on the Dawn Rain mainland for more than 700 years. Since I suddenly returned today, naturally, I have something to say to all of you. Even if all of you did not come today, this one would have chosen another day to gather all the sect masters for a discussion. Since all the Dawn Rain mainland sects are here today, then there's no better time than the present. This one will tell you all the things that this one wants to say. Would all of you like to discuss with this one?" Taoist He Ping and the others respectfully said, "Taoist Shao, please feel free to instruct us. As long as we can do it, we will definitely do it." Supreme Clarity Sect's Taoist Yu Qing also hurriedly said, "That's right, please instruct us." Xiao Hua looked at Taoist Yu Qing and said meaningfully, "Since this is the case, this one will first thank Taoist Yu Qing and Supreme Clarity Sect's disciples." "Ah." Taoist Yu Qing was stunned and asked in a low voice, "What does Taoist Shao mean?" "Everyone." Xiao Hua did not return to Taoist Yu Qing, but sat on the fortune throne, looking at the crowd and said, "There is a Tao in heaven and earth. Tao gives birth to one, one gives birth to two, two gives birth to three, and three gives birth to all living things. All living things have spirits and can cultivate. Because of different races and different perception, they are divided into Taoist, Confucian, Buddhist, and Yao. Taoist is divided into Yuanying, Jindan, and Jinshan. Yuanying is divided into qi refining, foundation building, Jindan, Yuanying, Dishen, void refining, unification, Mahayana, and Dujia. Jindan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and Tao merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and Tao merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and Tao merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and Tao merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and heaven merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and Tao merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and Tao merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and heaven merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and Tao merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and Tao merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and heaven merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and Tao merging. Jinshan is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and heaven merging. Jinshan is divided into 9 turns golden body. Confucian is divided into qi refining, spirit returning, void refining, and heaven merging. Taoist Yu Qing originally paid attention to the meaning of Xiao Hua's words, but when he heard what Xiao Hua said, he was stunned again. He did not know what this Tao had to do with thanking the disciples of the Taiqing sect. However, Xian Jing of the Kunlun sect was different. When he just heard the first sentence from Xiao Hua's mouth, his heart immediately trembled. Without hesitation, he sat down cross-legged, turned his 5 hearts to the sky, and closed 4 of his 5 senses. Only his ears were left, and he listened attentively. The Kunlun sect was indeed worthy of being a sect passed down from ancient times. Seeing Xian Jing like this, the other Yuanying disciples immediately woke up. They did not care about anything else, and immediately sat down cross-legged and listened carefully. When the Kunlun sect was like this, Taoist Yu Qing and other leaders of the Taoist cultivation countries woke up and hurriedly sat down cross-legged. There were also leaders who whispered to their disciples to listen to the lecture. As for the sword cultivators, strong spiritual swords such as Butterfly and Zhua Ming were also stunned at first. Even if they heard it clearly, they still did not understand. After half a cup of tea's time, these spiritual swords suddenly changed their faces and revealed their swords to listen. When the spiritual swords were like this, the transforming sword and illusory sword were even slower. When they woke up and listened to the lecture, it was already a cup of tea's time later. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to the Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 52:16. Naturally, the disciples of the Fortune Gate were different from the other sections. Whether it was the disciples of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range led by Xiong Yi or the Fortune Gate disciples of the Dawn Rain Continent, they all regarded Xiao Hua as a god. Xiao Hua's preaching was like a golden rule to them. After a few words, they immediately understood. Under the moonlight, the night sky near Sentry City was unusually quiet. There was no snow, no wind, no rain, and no fog. The stars in the sky shone brightly, reflecting the brilliance of the cultivators on the ground. The whole world was shrouded in an indescribable Tao. Xiao Hua's words were like gurgling water that flowed into the ears of millions of Dawn Rain Continent cultivators and slowly nourished their hungry and thirsty hearts. Tao was fate, and the depth of this fate was not only in the comprehension of Tao, but also in the epiphany. Millions of cultivators heard the same words, but their hearts were different. There was joy on the faces of the Fortune Gate disciples, bitterness on the faces of the cultivators from the 3 countries, sadness on the faces of the sword cultivators from the Huan country, and realization on the faces of the heavenly demon sect disciples. For a time, all kinds of feelings appeared on the faces of the cultivators, day and night appeared, and the sun rose. Xiao Hua looked around with a smile and finally said, "The Tao has a heart, and it is divided into good and evil. Using a kind heart to use the Tao, there will be good results. Using evil thoughts to use the Tao, there will be bad results." Today, this Xiao Hua preaches and hopes that the cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent will use good results as their thoughts and tread on the Tao with kindness. After he finished speaking, Xiao Hua sat on the throne of fortune, looked up at the sun, and said one word, "Good." As soon as this word came out, it immediately turned into thousands of words, like butterflies flying everywhere. Millions of cultivators were near and far, but the word "good" did not fall far. Almost at the same time, millions of good words entered the heads of all the cultivators. Dang! Everyone was startled awake and raised their heads to look at Xiao Hua. Just at this moment, the gentle sunlight shone on Xiao Hua's body. The throne of fortune's lightning flashed in the sunlight like a dancing dragon. Xiao Hua's benevolence and magnanimity subdued tens of thousands of cultivators. Without waiting for the Fortune Gate's disciples to open their mouths, all the sword cultivators and Tao cultivators knelt in midair and kowtowed in thanks. Disciples thank Master Xiao. Xiao Hua smiled faintly. His charm in the sunlight was unparalleled for a moment. He patted the throne of creation he sat on, and rumbling sounds rang out. Countless lightning hands appeared out of thin air and lifted up everyone who had fallen to their knees. His voice, brimming with compassion, rang out again. "Everyone, please rise. I, Xiao Hua, have received the great favor of heaven and earth. I have cultivated to transcend tribulation and become the supreme ruler of humanity. This is my fortuitous opportunity, but it is also a gift from the heavenly Tao. Therefore, I do not dare to enjoy the heavenly Tao alone. I will share my understanding of the heavenly Tao with the world. I hope that everyone can obtain the grace of the heavenly Tao and step into the ranks of the great Tao." Tribulation, tribulation? Human Mahayana realm? The several million cultivators were stunned on the spot. Xiao Hua ignored everyone's shock and continued. "I was born in the Dawn Rain mainland. Although I have only cultivated to the Gold Core realm, my roots are in the Dawn Rain mainland. I have traveled through the 3 mainlands, the hidden immortal continent, the Western Paradise, the 1,000 Demons Sacred Realm, the 10,000 Demons World, and the Chilan mainland. Today, I have returned to the Dawn Rain mainland, which is also the Yi-Lin mainland's Heaven Alliance and Tao Alliance's Lost Land. I saw an unknown cultivator from the Defeat Immortal Alliance in the Starfall Heavens. He actually stirred up trouble on my Dawn Rain mainland, so I took action to eradicate him. Today, the Tao that I have imparted to you is in the hands of my Fortune Gate's disciples. In the future, you can look for my Fortune Gate's sect master. They will definitely teach you according to your circumstances." The cultivators were wild with joy and bowed. "Thank you, Taoist Xiao, for your generosity." However, Xiao Hua changed the topic and said, "However, I obtained this Tao from the 3 mainlands. Today, I am announcing this Tao to the public on behalf of the 3 mainlands Tao cultivators and even the human race. I sincerely request the Dawn Rain mainland's cultivators to use the inheritance of Tao cultivators and the human race's bloodline to save the 3 mainlands' billions of lives." Xiao Hua didn't mention saving the world, nor did he ask for anything in return. He only preached the Tao for one night, then threw out the Tao cultivation method, and finally asked all the Dawn Rain mainland's cultivators to lend a helping hand. The cultivators' blood was already boiling. Xian Jing shouted, "Daoist Xiao, if you have any instructions, just say it. As long as Daoist Xiao gives the order, my Kunlun sect's disciples will definitely," without waiting for Xian Jing to finish, Daoist Yu Qing also said in a clear voice, previously, Daoist Shao has said clearly that you need the help of my Tai Ching sect. Now, Daoist Shao can say it clearly. My Tai Ching sect doesn't say anything about the human race's bloodline or Dao cultivator inheritance. We will use the entire sect's strength to save the world. The other sword cultivators were all impassioned. Good. Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, since that's the case, I thank everyone on behalf of the 3 continents human race. Everyone, please calm down and listen to this Xiao's explanation. After everyone calmed down a little, Xiaohua told them about the calamity of the 3 continents in full detail. He also told them about the situation of the 10,000 demon realm and the Yilin mainland. Until now, the Dawn Rain mainland's cultivators finally understood that the world was so big. The Dawn Rain mainland that they regarded as the world was just a lost land of the Yilin mainland, and the entire enormous Yilin mainland was just a corner of the 4 great continents. In the east of the Guihe Sea, there were the boundless 3 continents and 3 rivers and 4 seas. Even outside of the 4 great continents, there was a 10,000 demon realm that was dominated by the demon race. However, all of this was isolated by a large array that might exist. They lived under the protection of this large array. In just a moment, the various sect leaders frowned again. The ordinary cultivators of the Dawn Rain mainland might not think too much, but the sect leaders couldn't help but think more. The outside of the Dawn Rain mainland was so exciting, but how much excitement was left for them? After the large array was broken, the various sects would come to find them. What would the cultivators of the Dawn Rain mainland and even the various sects do? Xiaohua had already thought about it. He looked around and said, perhaps some cultivators feel that what does the destruction of the 3 continents have to do with our Dawn Rain mainland? We're content to stay in a corner and cultivate ourselves. However, why don't you think about it? If the large array wasn't broken, our Dawn Rain mainland would forever be a lost land, forever forgotten by Dao cultivators. Just a cultivator from the Immortal Alliance who wasn't famous could become the Vice Alliance leader of the Immortal Alliance in our Dawn Rain mainland. Falling Star Heaven is still considered good. They also have misgivings about the other cultivators of the Immortal Alliance and haven't run amok. If there was an unreasonable person, the current Dawn Rain mainland would already be a bloody scene. Besides, isn't this Xiao a living example? If this Xiao hadn't left the Dawn Rain mainland, in these 1,000 years, I would have cultivated to the nascent soul realm at most. How could I have reached the tribulation transcendence realm? This Xiao is only 1 step ahead. After me, there's still all of you and your descendants. Buzz. Hearing this, all the cultivators' blood boiled and they couldn't help but whisper. Xiaohua had a smile on his face and didn't stop them, allowing them to let their imaginations run wild. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, everyone calmed down again. Xiaohua spoke again, the ancients have a saying, viewing the sky from the bottom of a well. Therefore, breaking the large array and helping the 3 continents save the world not only helps the billions of living beings in the 3 continents, but also helps the cultivation of us Dao cultivators. The outside world is so big and there are so many opportunities. How can we be content in a corner? Be ants in the eyes of others? Zhuo Ming and Zhuo Lingjian hurriedly bowed at this time and said, Dao Master Xiao, this junior schemed against the fortune gate and offended Dao Master. However, after hearing Dao Master's words, this junior knows that this was not only because of my personal interests, but also because this junior's knowledge is shallow. If there is such a world in the east of the heavenly sea, how could this junior lay his hands on his own people? Since Dao Master has said so clearly, this junior already understands. If Dao Master has any instructions, just say it. This junior will do his best to help. Good, this Xiao thanks Zhuo Lingjian on behalf of the cultivators of the 3 continents. Xiaohua helped Zhuo Ming up with a smile and said, however, this Xiao also wants to be honest. This Xiao wants to ask for everyone's help. However, this Xiao doesn't know how to help. After all, this large array is innate and not something that can be done by humans. Therefore, this Xiao explained the reason in detail to everyone. Please pay attention and see if you know anything related to the large array. This junior understands. Zhua Ming hurriedly turned and ordered, quickly, pass down Dao Master Zhao's order. If any disciple of the High Wind Sword sect can provide information about the large array, this old man will reward them handsomely. Since Zhua Ming said so, the other sword cultivators and Dao cultivators also passed down the order. Then, Xiao Hua looked at Dao Master Yu Qing of the Tai Ching sect and said, Dao Master Yu Qing, this junior is here. Dao Master Yu Qing hurriedly bowed and said, Senior, what instructions do you have? Xiao Hua waved his hand and a storage bag flew in front of Dao Master Yu Qing and said, This is a greeting gift from this Xiao to the Tai Ching sect. Please accept it. What is this? Dao Master Yu Qing was somewhat puzzled, but Xian Jing's eyelids twitched. Take a look first. Xiao Hua replied with a smile. Dao Master Yu Qing opened the storage bag and took a look. Naturally, his expression changed greatly. An indescribable ecstasy appeared in his eyes. Senior. Dao Master Yu Qing suppressed the ecstasy in his heart and carefully put away the storage bag. He looked at Xiao Hua and said respectfully, I wonder what my Tai Ching sect can do for the 3 continents. The 3 peaks of heaven, earth, and man. Xiao Hua looked at Dao Master Yu Qing and said word by word. Dao Master Yu Qing was stunned, as if he didn't understand. He asked curiously, the 3 peaks of heaven, earth, and man? Dao Master, what do you mean by this? Xiao Hua said with a smile, although this Xiao doesn't know how to break this Xiantian large array, this Xiao already has some ideas. I know that to break this large array, one has to topple the Tai Ching sect's 3 peaks of heaven, earth, and man, this. Dao Master Yu Qing was shocked and cried out, how is this possible? My Tai Ching sect is in Meng country. The Xiantian large array that Dao Master Xiao said is in the Qianhe Sea. How can my Tai Ching sect's 3 peaks of heaven, earth, and man be related to the large array? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 52:17. In front of all the cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent, Xiao Hua couldn't explain the immortal formation in detail, but he still explained the phenomenon of the heaven, earth, and mortal peaks, as well as his own inference. Finally, he said, therefore, although I know that the formation can be broken by toppling the heaven, earth, and mortal peaks, I don't know how to topple it, and whether the several supreme cultivators who came with me can topple it. That's why I asked the cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent to help me find clues to break the formation. But no matter what, the heaven, earth, and mortal peaks, I'm afraid we can't protect them. The things in the storage pouch can be considered my compensation to the Tai Ching sect. The heaven, earth, and mortal peaks were the key to breaking the formation, and toppling these 3 peaks was imperative. Therefore, Xiao Hua didn't waste any time on pleasantries, and looked at Daoist Yu Qing with bright eyes. Daoist Yu Qing's mouth was bitter, and his heart was filled with regret. He knew that Xiao Hua must have a request from the Tai Ching sect, and he was prepared to use the Tai Ching sect's power to help Xiao Hua, but he absolutely didn't expect that the Tai Ching sect would pay the price of toppling the heaven, earth, and mortal peaks. The heaven, earth, and mortal peaks were the foundation of the Tai Ching sect's 3 sects. How could they be toppled just like that? Daoist Yu Qing had an impulse to return the storage pouch, but looking at Xiao Hua's gaze, in front of all the cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent, Daoist Yu Qing hesitated. At this time, Xian Jing hurriedly said, Daoist Xiao, Junior doesn't know what my Kunlun sect can do for the 3 continents, and Junior also hasn't heard about the innate formation, but my Kunlun sect has a Kunlun secret realm that only the sect masters can enter. My Kunlun sect is willing to invite Daoist Xiao to the Kunlun secret realm, hoping to obtain information about the innate formation from there. Good. Xiao Hua nodded slightly and said with a smile, I accept Kunlun sect's good intentions. In the future, Kunlun's sect will be my Fortune Gate's ally. After this matter, please contact my Fortune Gate's Fortune Gate. For the matters of the Dawn Rain continent, my Fortune Gate will advance and retreat with Kunlun sect. Thank you, Daoist Xiao. Xian Jing was overjoyed, and hurriedly thanked him. On the other hand, Daoist Yuqing's heart trembled, and he instantly came to a realization. The person in front of him was the supreme being of the human race, the number one person on the Dawn Rain continent. The Fortune Gate that he controlled was the number one force on the Dawn Rain continent. Not to mention his Tai Ching sect, even the entire Dao Cultivation sect combined wouldn't be a match for him. The other party had taken out a storage pouch in front of all the cultivators in the world, and he had made a promise in front of all the cultivators in the world. How could he go back on his word now? Even if the other party didn't explain it to him and directly went to the Tai Ching sect to topple the three peaks of heaven, earth, and man. What could he do? There were billions of living beings in the three continents. All righteousness seemed insignificant in front of these billions of living beings. Not to mention, just a moment ago, this human supreme and the Fortune Gate he controlled had resisted the unknown blood formation and saved him and the entire Dao Cultivator sect from the brink of death. Thinking of this, Daoist Yuqing immediately made a decision. He bowed and said, reporting to Daoist Xiao, in order to save the billions of lives in the three continents, all the disciples of my Tai Ching sect are willing to listen to Daoist Zhao's orders and do anything. Even if it means toppling the three peaks of heaven, earth, and man. However, all the disciples of my three sects are on the three peaks. I have to explain this matter to them and evacuate everything on the three peaks. Therefore, I hope Senior can give me some time. A smile appeared on Xiao Hua's face. He rose from the throne of fortune and cupped his fists, saying, on behalf of the billions of lives in the three continents, I thank the Tai Ching sect for the sacrifice you have made for them. I won't say anything unnecessary. Just tell me whatever conditions the Tai Ching sect has. I dare not say too much, but as long as it's within my power, I'll agree to it. On behalf of the Dragon Island and the Dragon Clan of the Four Seas, I'll agree to it as long as it's within my power. Daoist Yun took a step forward and said majestically. Daoist Wu also took a step forward with a smile on his face and said, on behalf of the millions of soul cultivators of Meng Mountain and Wumeng Mountain, although they were not harmed by the apocalypse, we soul cultivators will agree to whatever conditions the Tai Ching sect has. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Maitreya Buddha stepped forward and said, on behalf of the Buddha, I'll agree to whatever conditions the Tai Ching sect has. Caw caw. The phoenix parasol flew out, its enormous wings covering the sky as it shouted, this Daoist is the number one great sage of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. This Daoist will represent the demons of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm and agree to any conditions of the Tai Ching sect. Hee, if that's the case. The Celestial also flew out, shaking his head as he cried out, on behalf of the old man Gauchen of the Immortal Palace, I promise you that the Confucian cultivators of the hidden immortal continent will agree to whatever conditions the Tai Ching sect has, and will also agree to any cultivators who can help break the formation. The various supremes revealed their cultivation realm and strength one by one. Waves of supreme aura shrouded the surrounding 10,000 li like a tidal wave. In the originally gloomy sky, hurricanes howled as all kinds of strange phenomena appeared one after another. Some were covered in dragon patterns, some were filled with stars and moons, and some were paved with Buddhist light. Once again, everyone was dumbfounded. A moment later, the Tai Ching sect's Daoist Yuqing smiled bitterly and said, the things Daoist Xiao gave me in the storage pouch have far exceeded this junior's expectations. As for the specific conditions, this junior can't say. However, please rest assured, this junior also guarantees in front of all the cultivators in the world that my Tai Ching sect's disciples will not use this as a threat to make excessive demands. That's great. Xiao Hua said with a smile, in a few days, I'll lead everyone to the Tai Ching sect to visit Daoist Yuqing. At that time, we'll discuss how to break the formation together. Alright, This junior will wait for senior's arrival at the Taiching sect. Daoist Yu Qing bowed and retreated into the crowd. Xiaohua looked at the crowd and then at his feet. Finally, he raised his voice and said, "Everyone, my Fortune Gate's disciples are too many. If we were to place them anywhere in the cultivation world, it would cause a change in the strength of the 4 countries. Now that the Sky Patrol City is gone and this 10,000 li snow domain is in ruins, this Xiao wants to establish the Fortune Gate here. What do you think?" When Daoist He Ping heard this, he immediately smiled and bowed. "Daoist Xiao, you think too much. Although the Fortune Gate is an iron army, they are also benevolent and righteous. We Dao cultivators would welcome them anywhere in the cultivation world. Why do we have to establish a sect in this bitter cold place?" Chong Taishu and the other spirit swordsmen smiled bitterly. However, they looked at each other and bowed. "We have no objection to where Senior wants to establish the sect. If we temporarily place it near the Sky Patrol City, it would be convenient for us Dao cultivators to send messages to the Fortune Gate to break the formation. What spiritual master He Ping said just now is not wrong. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth in this place is not as abundant as in other places. Please reconsider." "Ha." Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "The Fortune Gate's disciples I brought today are only 1% of my Fortune Dao Palace's disciples. The other disciples have already established their sects in the West Sea. If the formation is broken, all of my Fortune Gate's disciples will return to the West Sea. If the formation is not broken, then my Fortune Gate will consider establishing a sect here." 10%? Everyone was shocked again. While everyone was still in shock, Zhang Qingxiao flew over and bowed. "Daoist Xiao, I have already said that I am here to ask for forgiveness. However, I have just checked. My heavenly demon sex 4th sex earth fiend sex deputy sex Yu Zhongkue, the 6th sex earth spirit sex deputy sex Yang Ji, and the 8th sex Renhua sex deputy sex Yao Qingxi have all fallen in the battle. The other 3 sex disciples are here under orders. They cannot be blamed. Sect Master Zhang is too polite." Xiaohua smiled. However, Zhang Qingxiao continued, "I have also said that I am not strict with my subordinates. I must take responsibility for this. Therefore, I have also said that I will pass the Heavenly Demon sect master's position to Yi Yin in front of Daoist Xiao and all the cultivators in the world. I will no longer be involved in the Heavenly Demon sex matters. Since Daoist Xiao is so straightforward, I will not delay any further." Xiaohua nodded and said, "This is Sect Master Zhang's choice. I am very pleased. The previous grievances between my Fortune Gate and the Heavenly Demon sect will be written off today. Where is Yi Yin?" Zhang Qingxiao shouted. Zhang Qingxiao had already discussed the rules with Yi Yin when he proposed to pass the position in front of everyone. Yi Yin did not dare to be negligent. He hurriedly stepped out and bowed. "Disciple is here. From today onwards, you are the Heavenly Demon sect master. Everything in the Heavenly Demon sect will be handed over to you." Zhang Qingxiao raised his hand and brushed Yi Yin's forehead as he said, "From today onwards, everything in the Heavenly Demon sect has nothing to do with me. Lord Sect Master." Zhang Qingxiao had already said this before, but at that time, he did not really give up the position of Sect Master. At this time, before Yi Yin could speak, all the Heavenly Demon sect's disciples knelt down and kowtowed. "Please take back your words. The Heavenly Demon sect was built by you. My Heavenly Demon sect cannot be without Lord Sect Master." Zhang Qingxiao's heart instantly softened, and 2 lines of heroic tears fell uncontrollably. "He he." Xiaohua smiled slightly and said, "Sect Master Zhang, although this Xiao has just returned to the Dawn Rain mainland, this Xiao has heard from the Thunder Control sect and other cultivators that although the Heavenly Demon sect has some evil deeds, your reputation is still resounding. Since the Heavenly Demon sect's disciples can't leave you and this little friend Yi can't take over the Heavenly Demon sect for a while, you might as well be the Grand Sect Master for the time being." Zhang Qingxiao was naturally reluctant to leave the Heavenly Demon sect, but his situation was different and he had to leave. After hearing Xiao Hua's words, he pondered for a moment and nodded. Since that's the case, this one will listen to Taoist Xiao and temporarily be the grand sect master of the heavenly demon sect. However, this one will let Yi Yin take care of all the sect's affairs. The heavenly demon sect's disciples were overjoyed and kowtowed. Thank you, Grand Sect Master, thank you, Taoist Xiao. Seeing that the heavenly demon sect's affairs were over and everyone had left, Xiao Hua did not say anything else. He stood in front of the throne of creation and raised his hand, saying, "This one has finished what he wanted to say. I hope that everyone will immediately search for information about breaking the formation after returning to their respective sections. As I said before, as long as there's valuable information, this one will thank you regardless of the cost." Yes, this junior understands. All the cultivators bowed and saluted. This junior will take his leave and immediately search for the formation breaking rope according to senior's instructions. Please. Xiao Hua raised his hand to send them off. After all the sword cultivators and all the Dao cultivators of the sect saluted, they organized themselves and left. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support it, cast a monthly vote, cast a recommendation vote, collect a collection, reward, and thank all forms of support. In the future, hand over the disciples to the two leaders, Xiong Yi and Li Xiang, and focus on your cultivation. As Xiao Hua spoke, he waved his hand and placed several storage pouches in front of the three of them, saying, "This old man will have a specialized disciple guide you." Thank you, spiritual master. Zhong Haoran, Zhong Zhan, and Fei Yunshu heaved a long sigh of relief and kowtowed to express their gratitude. You can leave. Xiao Hua nodded. He looked at Wang Jiansheng and the others and said, "Come over here." Although there were many Fortune Gate disciples, their strength was too weak. In just a short while, Fishing Isles Su Chong, Heavenly Competitive Pavilions Shuahong, Bright Wisdom Pavilions Wucheng, and Yuanfeng Strongholds Zhou Ji had all fallen. Only Chu Hong factions Wang Jiansheng, Cloud Pavilion Fort Su Zhonglin, Burning Crane Societies Zhao Ming, and Yen Sun Manors Qing Jizi were still alive. Hearing Xiao Hua's words, no one dared to be negligent. They hurried over and kowtowed in greeting. Although this old man doesn't know any of you. Xiao Hua looked at them and smiled, since you all consider yourselves Fortune Gate disciples, then this old man will not be partial to you. Here are immortal peaches, replenish your lifespan first. Disciples thanked the sect chief. Wang Jiansheng and the others received the immortal peaches and said, although disciples consider ourselves Fortune Gate disciples, there are still selfish desires in our hearts. From today onwards, disciples will offer all disciples to the sect chief, and dare to be ordinary disciples. Xiao Hua nodded, this old man understands your intentions. All of you have the ability to lead, how can you be ordinary disciples? Millions of Fortune Gate disciples should be led by someone. After my Fortune Gate's two sect chiefs take a look, I will make arrangements for all of you. Yes, disciples understand. Everyone ate the immortal peaches, and Xiao Hua gave them cultivation technique jade slips before retreating. Everyone. Xiao Hua looked at the millions of Dawn Rain Mainland's Fortune Gate disciples and spoke. Before Xiao Hua could finish, all the disciples shouted in unison, disciples greet Taoist Xiao. Although the greetings were the same as before, Xiao Hua could still feel the passion in these disciples' hearts. Good. Xiao Hua stood up and clapped his hands, saying, since all of you are my Fortune Gate's disciples, this old man won't say much. Those senior brothers and martial uncles around you, as well as those powerful seniors you saw earlier, are all your role models. As long as you cultivate with peace of mind and listen to the Fortune Gate's orders, this old man can guarantee that the scene you saw in the Sky Patrol City will never happen again. Not only will you sweep across the Dawn Rain mainland, you will also sweep across the 4 continents. Disciples understand. All the disciples shouted in unison, we are proud to be Fortune Gate's disciples. Subsequently, Xiaohua raised his hand and pointed at the ground, smiling. Disciples, don't judge this place by its bitter cold and harsh climate. This is where the Sky Patrol City is located, and it is also where Dao and sword cultivators fight for. Now that the Sky Patrol City has been destroyed, we have established a sect here to grab the throats of Dao and sword cultivators. This old man will leave this place to all of you. I hope that 10 years later, this old man will be able to see a unique fortune Dao Palace on the Dawn Rain mainland. Yes, disciples will follow Daoist Zhao's orders and build a fortune Dao Palace for Daoist Zhao in this snowy region. All the disciples respectfully replied. Xiong Yi, where is Li Xiang? Xiaohua raised his head and shouted. Disciples are here. The two Fortune Gates sect chiefs flew out and bowed. This old man will leave these cute disciples to all of you. Xiaohua emphasized each word. All of you must treat them as nephews and juniors. You must not show any favoritism. Sect Master, please rest assured. Xiong Yi and the others respectfully replied, disciples dare not do such a thing. Subsequently, Xiaohua instructed Xiong Yi and Li Xiang to recruit over 100 Fortune Gates disciples. Then, he slapped the fortune throne once more, and the light screen shattered, and everything disappeared. Xiaohua turned to look at Inkue and chuckled, Junior has made a fool of himself in front of Senior. Don't mention it. Inkue laughed, this old man also walked the same path in the past. You've done well, far better than this old man. Senior already knows about the 3 continents calamity. Do you have any good ideas? Xiaohua probed. Inkue shook his head slightly, this old man has never seen the world-destroying monster worm, so there's nothing much to say. Perhaps, Inkue stopped here and didn't say anything else. Xiaohua knew that Inkue was referring to the other Emperor Tianhuang's clone, so he didn't continue the conversation. He smiled and said, since that's the case, Senior can chat with these few Dao friends. Perhaps you can think of something. Inkue knew that Xiaohua was monitoring him, so he didn't say anything and nodded. Xiaohua took a deep breath and looked in the direction of Fairy Hongxia and the others. However, when he saw them clearly, he frowned. This was because there was an unfamiliar cultivator standing beside Li Zongbao. Xiaohua's figure blurred, and he landed in front of everyone. The cultivator didn't dare to be negligent, and he hurriedly bowed. Junior Hengfeng greets Dao Master Xiao. Dao Master Xiao. Li Zongbao was about to call Xiaohua Junior Brother Xiao, but before he could open his mouth, he realized that something was wrong. He hurriedly corrected himself, this is my master. Io. Xiaohua immediately understood, and he hurriedly helped Hengfeng up. He smiled and said, since he's senior brother Li's master, then we're family. There's no need to be so polite. Hengfeng was overjoyed, and he stood up and said, Junior has received orders from the sect master to visit Zongbao. At the same time, I would like to invite Dao Master to accompany Zongbao to the utmost bliss faction. Xiaohua didn't immediately agree. Instead, he looked at Li Zongbao. Li Zongbao hurriedly smiled and said, Master is very good to me. I've already agreed. That's good. Xiaohua nodded. Li Zongbao had already told Xiaohua about his experiences in the utmost bliss faction. Xiaohua didn't have a good impression of the utmost bliss faction, but he had to give Li Zongbao face. He smiled and said, since senior brother Li has agreed, this Xiao must go. Moreover, this Xiao must lead the Fortune Gates disciples to congratulate senior brother Li in Daoist Kai's marriage. Hearing this, Hengfeng hurriedly said, Dao Master doesn't need to worry about Zongbao and Zhuxia's marriage. This junior was worried about his cultivation, so I warned him. Now that he has received Dao Master's teachings, there's no harm. This junior agrees, they can get married at any time. Thank you, Master. Li Zongbao hurriedly bowed, and Kai Zhuxia also saluted with blushing eyes. Ai, Daoist Hengming, you don't even know senior brother Li's aptitude. Back then, you even scolded him for not having a baby. Xiaohua looked at Li Zongbao and sighed. He said to Heng Ming, to tell you the truth, when I met Senior Brother Li that day, I asked him to join the Fortune Gate. However, to my surprise, he didn't want to leave the Utmost Bliss faction. I don't mind telling you that if the Utmost Bliss faction can have one person reach the Mahayana stage, it can only be Senior Brother Li. Yes, yes. Heng Feng hurriedly smiled. Dao Master, please don't blame Master. Senior Brother Li said unhappily, Master is very good to me, Xiao Hua laughed and said, that's good. Then he took out a jade slip and handed it to Heng Ming, saying, this is a method to refine the meridians. I'll give it to the Utmost Bliss faction as a thank you for taking care of Senior Brother Li. No. Heng Feng hurriedly waved his hand and said, Zongbao is my disciple, it's my duty to take care of him. Master, please take it. Li Zongbao laughed and said, Dao Master Xiao, you have countless secret arts. If you can get one, it's your lucky chance, and also the Utmost Bliss faction's lucky chance. Heng Feng smiled and took it. When he looked at it with his divine thought, his expression changed greatly. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thank you to the Alliance leader, Kai Kai in the rain. Today is the Mid-Autumn Festival. I hope all of you will have a happy holiday and have good luck. Chapter 52:19. Looking at Heng Zhao's expression, Xiao Hua was confused and asked, what's wrong? This. Heng Zhao hesitated for a moment, looked at Li Zongbao, and said in a low voice, when I saw the skill that you gave me, I suddenly thought of something. Oh. Please tell me. Xiao Hua was surprised and asked. Heng Zhu explained, Junior's grandmaster is called Sun Luzhenren. When Junior was young, I served by his side. I remember one time when he was drunk, he accidentally mentioned a secret. He said that he had a secret technique that could cultivate the meridians. He only mentioned a little about it before he passed out drunk. Later, he didn't mention it again, and I gradually forgot about it. But today, when I saw the secret skill, it was somewhat similar. What about Immortal Sun Lu? Xiao Hua asked. He died in the Imperial Demon Valley in the last great war of immortals and demons. Heng Zhao replied. Xiao Hua understood. He gave Heng Zhao the simplest dragon transformation skill, which was suitable for cultivating the meridians of the human race. There was no dragon jade in his space. Since he woke up in the Xiaoyu continent, the dragon jade had been in his space. Xiao Hua had never understood the origin of the dragon jade. Since Xiao Hua broke the boundary and fell into the Imperial Demon Valley, Immortal Sun Lu, who had the incomplete dragon jade, died in the Imperial Demon Valley. Although Xiao Hua didn't know the specific situation, he was sure that the incomplete dragon jade in his space belonged to Immortal Sun Lu of the Utopia faction. Alas, the way of karma is nothing more than this. After Xiao Hua sighed, he took out an even more profound cultivation technique and handed it over to Heng Ming, saying, this Xiao doesn't know if this cultivation technique belongs to Taoist Master Sun Lu, but this Xiao did indeed obtain this cultivation technique from Demon-Resisting Valley. Therefore, this cultivation technique, it's better to return it to its rightful owner. Immortal. Heng Zhao was at a loss. Xiao Hua's generosity was really beyond his imagination. This is the karma between me and the Utopia faction. Xiao Hua smiled and stuffed the jade slip into Heng Zhao's hand. You can give it to Immortal He Ping. Okay, I thank you on behalf of the Utopia faction. Heng Zhao took the jade slip and said respectfully. Junior Brother Xiao. Li Zongbao said, I haven't been back to the Utopia faction for a long time. Since Master is here today, I will go back with him. If you need anything, just send me a message. No need. You just need to focus on your cultivation and accompany fellow Taoist Kai. Xiao Hua looked at Kai Zhuxia, who was gradually blushing, and suddenly understood something. He smiled and said, Little brother congratulates Senior Martial Brother Li and fellow Taoist Kai for having a child soon. On the day of Senior Marshal Brother Li's wedding, I will go with Fairy Hong Xia to congratulate him. Li Zongbao's face reddened, but he didn't explain himself. He glanced at Kai Zhuxia and prepared to leave. Kai Zhuxia nodded at Fairy Hong Xia and whispered a few words to her. She smiled generously and said, I was able to be together with Zongbao all because of Daoist Shao. If I get married, I will definitely invite you and my sister. I will take my leave now, sister. Suddenly, Fairy Hong Xia, who had been silent all this time, said, I will go back with you. Ah. Kai Zhuxia was not the only one who was caught off guard. Even Xiao Hua was stunned and looked at Fairy Hong Xia in confusion. Huang Mengxiang, who was next to him, hurriedly said, Brother Xiao, don't be afraid. Sister Hong Xia is going, but I am here. Yeah. Xiao Hua's face was livid. He ordered, tell the disciples to send fellow Daoist Huang back to Tianmen Mountain. Then, Xiao Hua looked at Wu Qing, Xiang Zhili, and Cui Yingying, who were not far away, and said, Why are you waiting here? Hurry up and learn from Xiong Yi and Li Xiang how to deal with the affairs of the faction. Yes, yes. Xiang Zhili stuck out his tongue and didn't dare to say anything. He obediently led Wu Qing and Cui Yingying away. On the other hand, Huang Mengxiang couldn't help but become anxious when he heard Xiao Hua's anger. He stomped his feet in the air and said, Big brother Xiao, I'll tell you clearly. It doesn't matter if you want me or not, I'll follow you anyway. Don't forget, I kissed you. You and I are destined to be together. Huang Mengxiang, who dared to love and hate, wanted to jump into Xiao Hua's arms. Unfortunately, before she could use her magic power, Yuanya raised his hand and grabbed, imprisoning Huang Mengxiang. He agreed and flew away on a cloud. Xiao Hua was a little embarrassed and said in a low voice, Hong Xia, it is not what you think. Hong Xia. Kai Zhuxia also glared at Fairy Hong Xia and scolded, Don't throw a tantrum. I know Daoist Master Zhao's character. I knew him much earlier than you. I believe in him. Heng Zhao was a little embarrassed. He didn't know if he should say goodbye at this time. No, sister. Fairy Hong Xia looked at Xiao Hua and then looked at Kai Zhuxia. He said seriously, I believe in Xiao Hua, and I love Xiao Hua deeply in my heart. But, the person in front of me is no longer the Xiao Hua I know and love. He is Daoist Master Xiao, the Daoist Master Xiao who is the focus of attention, the Daoist Master Xiao who is worshipped by millions of cultivators. He is the #1 person in Xiaoyu continent. How can such a Daoist Master Xiao be my Dao companion? Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked at himself and said, Hong Xia, no matter how strong I am still Xiao Hua. I have not changed at all. No. Fairy Hong Xia shook her head and said, That is your feeling, not mine. Fairy Hong Xia took out a pink jade slip from her bosom and handed it to Xiao Hua. This was personally delivered by Ling Feiyin of Misty Mountain to Huanhua sect. He said that Xue Xue gave it to me. That day, this jade slip could not be opened. There was a layer of restriction inside. Ling Feiyin did not know what was going on. He only said that he was entrusted by someone. Later on, you suddenly disappeared. I was very anxious and tried to find out more about you. Later on, I heard that Xue Xue and Martial Uncle Helplessness of the Imperial Thunder sect had also fallen. Only then did I suddenly think of this jade slip. When I took it out, the restriction inside had already disappeared. Xiao Hua's heart ached. He took the second jade slip that Xue Xue used her life to engrave. He used his divine sense and saw that there were not many words in the jade slip. There were only 4 verses in a line of words. Chia died in Xiao Lang's life. Lang escaped in the mist, only in the world of mortals, fate is shallow, can't meet. Sister Hong Xia, I have gone. I do not regret it. For darling Xiao, I am willing to give up everything. Darling Zhao's future, I will leave it to you. I hope that you can take good care of him. Let him know that you love him as much as I do. Xiao Hua's eyes became hot and tears almost fell. Darling Xiao. Fairy Hongxia said warmly, the path of human emotions is not smooth. If there are no bumps and bumps, how can it be smooth and harmonious? That year when I left you those ruthless words, it was also a moment of anger. Later on, I regretted it. But fate makes fools of people. Once you left, you did not return. For more than 700 years, I have been waiting. I have also read Xue Xue's Jade Slip countless times. I can also promise you that if there is such an opportunity, I will definitely pay the same as Xue Xue and give up my life. After all, we have both given our true love. But now you. Xiao Hua was really puzzled. At this time, he truly understood what it meant to be a needle in the bottom of the sea. I rejected you not because of Huang Mengxiang. Since I can tolerate Xue Xue, I can also tolerate another person. Fairy Hongxia looked at the familiar yet unfamiliar Xiao Hua and explained, I rejected you because you are no longer the Xiao Hua I loved. The Xiao Hua I loved only existed 700 years ago, existing only in my memories and thoughts. 700 years, ah. Fairy Hongxia couldn't help looking up at the horizon and said softly, for 700 years, I missed you every day and night. I cultivated with all my might, did my best to build the Kai family. I wanted to wait until my cultivation reached a certain level before I went to find you, to protect you, to fulfill Xue Xue's dying wish, But suddenly, you came back. You came back too unfamiliar, too lofty. You have already become Taoist Xiao, that godlike existence. Looking at millions of cultivators kneeling to you, I also felt the urge to kneel. Facing such a person, how could I dare to love? I don't even have the qualifications to feel ashamed of my inferiority. I am not even worthy to carry your shoes. How could I dare to be the mistress of millions of Fortune Gate's disciples? Hongxia. Kai Zhuxia said anxiously, Zongbao is different, his strength is much higher than mine. Without waiting for Kai Zhuxia to finish, Fairy Hongxia shook her head and said, Sister, you are you, I am me, Xiao Hua is Xiao Hua, Li Zongbao is Li Zongbao. You can catch up to Li Zongbao, but can I catch up to Xiao Hua? But. Xiao Hua still wanted to say something, but Fairy Hongxia said firmly, Darling Xiao, this is no longer the past. I have not changed, but you have changed too much. I can't catch up to you. We really can't go back to the past. As soon as she said that, Shua. Even though it was her own words, Fairy Hongxia couldn't help but cry, I'm sorry. Fairy Hongxia cried as she tried to move her body, wanting to escape. Xiao Hua had thought of thousands of endings, and this could be one of them. But the reason for this ending was something he couldn't comprehend even if he cultivated for 1,000,000 years. He really couldn't accept it. Without Xiao Hua's consent, Fairy Hongxia naturally couldn't leave. She tried to fly for a long time, but when she looked up, Xiao Hua and the rest were still in front of her. Xiao Hua. Fairy Hongxia cried and said, I beg you, let me go. Can you bear to see your former lover's final pride being shattered in front of you? Xiao Hua bit his lips and nodded slightly. He raised his hand and said, Wife, can your husband hug you one last time? Fairy Hongxia cried and threw herself into Xiao Hua's embrace. She bit down on Xiao Hua's chest, as if she wanted to vent her 700 years of longing. Her tears fell like rain, as if she wanted to pour down her 700 years of longing. Xiao Hua also couldn't help but cry. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Fairy Hongxia pushed Xiao Hua lightly and said, All right, Taoist Xiao, let go of me. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, gift it. Damn, writing such an ending for the Mid-Autumn Festival, I wonder if I will be scolded by my fellow Taoists. At the very least, Benben will ask for mental compensation, right? You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.